everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show. Plays about games, friends, getting better, and mediocre microphones that we apologize for, but only me. My name is Ben Hansen, but I'm joined by the pristine crew, as we like to call them, the finest AV setups around the land. We have Sarah Fazorski.
Hello.
We have Kyle Hilliard.
What are you running from, Ben? Who are you running from?
So, yeah, people in the Backstage Pass watching us live say it looks like I'm either in a dorm room or I'm on the run. I am in an Airbnb in Puerto Rico, wrapping up a vacation. I'm flying back tomorrow. And so I'm in my very boring looking room. But trust me, it's a beautiful tropical ocean like scene right through this window. If only you could see it, you would love it. But I'm also joined by Leo Vader.
Hi. My window's beautiful too, but I wasn't going to mention it.
Yeah, that's true. Jacob Geller, welcome, sir.
I'm here. Ben, if you adjust your posture just a little bit, it'll look like there's like a little flame coming out of your ear.
Oh,
Yeah, what is that? Is that a fire alarm?
That's my Burger King crown.
Wait, put it on? What do you
The Call of Duty
and you're not
Burger
wearing
King?
it?
The Call of Duty Burger. I'll save it for community questions before I put it on.
Okay.
Yeah, we made a little TikTok and Instagram reel and YouTube short, I guess, of visiting. There's one wacky Burger King in Puerto Rico, in San Juan, and they reskinned the entire thing for just wild promotions. And so it was like an entire Burger King skinned for Modern Warfare 3, which is just like the level of stupid of like, I saw it as we drove by and I'm like, I'm sorry, dear wife and child, but like, I gotta go look inside that building to see what it's like. And it was weird. I don't know why it's just one Burger King.
My favorite part is that you bought a burger and took a bite and were like, it's good. It's like, is it like Call of Duty themed?
It was a Call of Duty combo. It was a Call of Duty burger. Yeah, but it's like, what do you do? I just didn't want it to make it seem like I'm promoting it. Like
Familiar,
I think
it's familiar, but super solid, right? It's like they really locked it in. It's it doesn't have a lot of bugs or anything.
But we all gave it a 4 this time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think
And you were like the only person in there. Like the place looked empty except for you being in there.
Well, I was trying to film.
Everyone was at the
door.
Call of Duty Warzone Burger King, is what was going on.
Yeah, it was the McDonald's down the street. It was blowing up. But I was trying to film the bathroom door from the outside, like a gentleman, like a Mr. Respect.
Just as you came out.
Mr. Respect.
And so they had like, soldiers on the door and stuff. And then somebody was like walking into the bathroom and I really felt like the biggest creep in the world. Like, oh, sorry. And then just tried to be like, hey, how's it
What
going?
was on the bathroom door that needed filming?
You got to see this video, Sarah. You're going to lose it. There's a picture of a little soldier and then I think a soldier in a wheelchair. They've got it all at this Burger King. Very accepting.
Wow. And now you get to write off the whole trip on your taxes. That's smart.
It is sad, but like trying to convince my wife to let me go there and film this thing. I was like, hey, we get a free lunch. MinnMax will pay for the lunch. This could be bad. And then there's one comment on there though, like, I hope you didn't eat at Burger King the whole time you're in Puerto Rico. Like, I was here for 2.5 weeks. It was one meal, everybody.
I love the internet.
That's just
Misrepresenting everything you
going
do.
back.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we're going to be talking about the internet on this very episode because on this episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about the 210s in retrospect. We've wrapped up our Game of the Year debates. I know it just seemed like last week to you, but for us, that was last year, y'all. But we're going to, quote unquote, correct the list because what we've done is we had a big poll in the MinnMax Discord and on Patreon. Neil Smith, the mod, really tackled a lot of this. So thanks to Neil there. We got 480 responses, and we now have a list of the quote unquote correct 210s, where we have the community's ultimate ranking of actually the best games for 2023. And this is the hive mind that nobody can disagree with. If you want a scientific list, this is as scientific as it gets. All you cowards out there, where's an objective list? This is it. This is it. So look for that, everybody.
I hope you had fun commenting on our list because you cannot comment on this one.
That's right.
I very rarely look at the r/MinnMax subreddit, even though I'm sure it's full of lovely people. But did you see that Golden Banana Reviews did our mathematical 210s?
Yeah, we broke that down in this episode of Party Chat as well, our bonus podcast. So
it's
we
a
covered
really
that
good list. Like, it's super good. It's maybe even better.
It's interesting.
I don't know. I don't know if that counts because if Baldur's Gate could be 1 through 5 on my list, it would have been.
Right. Number 2 was basically meaningless to you. You just had
I mean, everything. It was like the distance, like with Leo and Hitman, the distance between Baldur's Gate 3 and the rest of my list. Miles, leagues, 10,000 leagues under the sea.
Jesus. But speaking of our list, our personal list, our top 10s, it's a little bit dry just for everyone to run down their top 10s and all that stuff. But there's a link in the description for this podcast on YouTube or in the podcast app for a public post on Patreon where we rounded up all of our top 10s, which is how people came to the quote unquote mathematical 210s. So it has all of our top 10s. It has friends of the show in there. We have Jenna Stieber's top 10, Serial Vasquez with top 10, Jason A. Striker from Giant Bomb, he was on talking about Street Fighter 6. That's in there. Brandon Jones, formerly VZ Allies. Haley DeBoom, guest of the podcast. We got her top 10 in there. There's a fun,
she was great.
Ton of fun stuff. Yeah, so check that out, everybody, in the link below if you want to see everybody's actual personal top 10s for the year and a whole lot more. Sarah, how are you feeling about the 210s in retrospect, though?
I'm glad it's over.
Really?
And I'm ready to watch you roast on the spit of the Final Fantasy VII remake that I had to this year.
Yeah,
I don't have a horse next year. Yeah, so I'm ready to see you go to bat. It's nice having not like a year that like not a big game comes out that you care about. Because we
call it 2021.
And you're very sure of that on January 10th of 2021.
No, I've seen the writing on the wall. I'm good.
It is weird because there's part of it where it's like it's almost easier if it's like, well, I know my fight is to champion Baldur's Gate 3, but then I'm not trying to project too much, but it feels like you're a person who maybe feels a little bit of that, like the pressure, the burden of like, if I don't champion this, I'm going to let down every fan of that game and every developer who worked on Baldur's Gate 3 and my family and my country.
It was, more so like the turnaround of it being the underdog.
Right.
Because in the beginning, you guys were like, no one's going to play that game. And I was like, fine. Another year where no one likes the games that Sarah plays. But then it looked like I had a chance. And then it was like, oh, the pressure is getting worse.
Well, the funny thing is, I think, did any of us really play it a lot? Other than Sarah on this call?
No.
On this call.
I'm in a room of men who didn't play Baldur's Gate 3. I am in hell. I am in hell right now.
What a nightmare. I do think...
I
on the
touched
big list,
it.
Hey, I tried. I played it with you, Sarah. You saw my.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear your niceties, your excuses.
It won. It frickin' won, Sarah. It can't be dragged back to the pissy zone. But it is funny, like in the pissy zone. If you're not familiar, that's at the $10 tier. We stayed on the call for like an extra 40 minutes after the last recording of the 210s and just let her rip for all of her real feelings. We didn't talk about it there, but I was thinking over this break. Sitting on a Puerto Rican beach, just looking out at the ocean, ignoring my wife and child a lot, just thinking like, I don't think we let Baldur's Gate 3 go up against Hitman Freelancer. I feel like Hitman Freelancer was like shooting up, it took out Zelda, and then we all just said, well, there's a brick wall before Baldur's Gate 3, and moving on, that's the end of the podcast. Part of me wonders if it could have toppled the king and queen up there with Baldur's Gate 3.
I would have loved to have that conversation, but I don't think so.
No.
I think it's fine where it is. I'm excited for future Game of the Years where I will go back to having nothing I really care about that much.
See, Leo agrees. There's so much more fun when you don't have like your game on the list.
But it's also really special to have something you really feel that passion for. Yeah. I'd be surprised if we see that super soon. Because it was like by the end of the year last year, it was just like, oh, I kind of am feeling that the vote might be split enough amongst all these great games that I could get Freelancer up there and like starting to realize that could be a possibility. Like that was really exciting.
You were playing against each other, Leo?
A little bit.
I was amazed by the amount of prep you did, Leo. I forget if it was in that bonus podcast with Dan Reichert where you talked about like going back to listen to old 210s debates just so you can formulate your argument. And was part of that lesson like, I know I need to get it number one on the list first because sliding it is where the hurdles really are at?
Definitely. I said if I could be the first one to volley a game, those don't move.
At least it feels like you're burning calories as a group, and people don't want to exert too much. So any sliding around, it does factor in, I think, a little bit.
For sure, and of course I had faith in my argument too, but like that was a little strategy thing of seeing that happen repeatedly.
We'll have to have a contest next year of some kind to see who gets to go first, right?
Right. Yeah. 9-way rock, paper, scissors.
Leo broke the system, called out its issues.
This is like the Jeopardy thing where you start just hitting all the bottom ones to see if you can get the daily double first.
Right. Yeah, it is fun to read by the way, thank you to everybody who helped share the 210s and had nice things to say. We were truly humbled by the amount of people that really seemed to enjoy it and got a kick out of the debates. Leo, I mean, you're a fan. I feel like especially those people that are like, oh, I used to really love the Giant Bomb debates. And I feel like MinnMax has something pretty close because Giant Bomb has changed their formula, I think, in a lot of smart ways. But it does. I feel like we're kind of purposely almost trying to call back to the Giant Bomb Game of the Year stuff. So whenever I see those comments like on Reddit or something, like, oh, that's what gets me by core. It's like these people, it seems like it's in the same vein.
And when people lobby for a more point-based system, that's like where the faith in it comes from, is from you and I coming up on those old Game of the Year debates of like, and we really believe in it as a vehicle for this and making conversations happen that even if you say we're going to do it mathematically and then we're going to talk about all of them, you just don't talk about them in the same way. And it doesn't end up as fun to listen to.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's fun reading all the comments though. And every once in a while there's one of those like, oh, wait, did we miss this? Like Kerbal Space Program 2 was one who's like, oh, I think Jeffem dug it this year, but maybe he didn't factor it in because it's early access. Or one that made me lose sleep at night was Blasphemous 2, Jacob. What happened with that? I thought you really liked it.
No, I mean, it's like I thought it was very good, which is different from me really liking it. And that was one of the kind of like the weird calculations that you do in your head of like, I really like this game versus I think it should be on MinnMax's list, or like I think this game is very good, but I don't like it, or it's like there are these kind of like, you don't realize that you're categorizing games in these very specific ways until it's like, choose a number, choose if you want to argue this. And so it was like, Humanity is a game that I loved, but it was like it didn't feel like a MinnMax list game. And so I was like not going to fight for that. And like Blasphemous was like, I don't have passion for this, even though technically it is very accomplished.
Right.
Yeah, versus something like if it was a group list that didn't have this on it, it would not be representing the group because my love for it is like a big part of our communal experience with games this year.
Yeah. Kyle, I think you're the only person that finished it, maybe, but did you think about Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty? That seems like one that in retrospect is like, ooh, did we just not list that? That seems bizarre.
Yeah, my thought on Cyberpunk, which is very hipster of me, but I really liked Cyberpunk the year it came out. Like, I put it on my top 10 list. Yeah. I absolutely recognize the shortcomings that people had with that game. But like, I played and beat it and like really didn't run into a lot of bugs and really enjoyed it. So every time I've checked back in with Cyberpunk, including that DLC, it's been a matter of like, oh, this is they've cleaned up even more. And I'm just revisiting that thing that I liked. And that's kind of how I felt about that DLC. It was a nice excuse to play more Cyberpunk with all the new bells and whistles. But it didn't push me over the edge of appreciation that it did for a lot of other people, because my appreciation for Cyberpunk was already pretty high as it was.
Yeah. I remember that was a weird one. I'm trying to remember if we included it in 2021s or we just said we might, because I think all of us as a group liked it in 2020. So that's an interesting wrinkle there that we already kind of got its flowers and whatnot.
There is I was looking at a Metacritic list of just like highest rated games, whatever. I think if Slay the Princess came out 1 month earlier, it would have been in our 210s because like I think Haley and Sarah played that and all really enjoyed it. And it's like it's like the 6th highest rated game of the year, which, is not what we're basing our decisions of, but like that game, I think, is going to just continue to kind of pick up like a cult following. And I just didn't feel like I had enough time to kind of simmer on it, which my guess is probably similar to how the other people felt. But like that game, if that game came out in like October, we would have been talking about it.
I think you're right. There's a lot of just weird flukes like that. It's not a science, as we said 1,000 times, but hopefully you all enjoyed it. So we have some lists from the community. And these are science. One of them, this isn't the real ranking, to be clear. We're going to get to that in a bit. But what this is, Neil the Mod, I thought it was really interesting, where he listed the top 10 most underrated games of 2023, according to the hive mind of the MinnMax community. And these are games that not a lot of people had on their lists, but the people who had them on their lists ranked them very highly. And Slay the Princess made me think of that. So these are games that are not on a lot of people's lists, but if they were on a list, they were like number 1 or 2 type of thing. You know, so it feels like it's an underrated gem type of category. Number 10 on this, Octopath Traveler 2. There we go. It's just getting awards left and right. Number 9, Blasphemous 2. Number 8 for most underrated games from the MinnMax community, Street Fighter 6. Number 7 is Hitman Freelancer. Well, overrated, actually, if you ask me. But number 6 is Horizon Forbidden West: Burning Shores, the DLC, which also didn't come up.
I completely forgot that came out last year. I don't think I heard a single person talk about that after the month it released.
Well, to be fair, Janet and Jeffem tried, and I kept just muting their mics. If you remember the podcast, it was a drastic move. Number 5 is Cassette Beasts, which we did talk about on the podcast. That was a fun Pokemon-style game. There's kind of like Pokemon Black and White art. Number 4 is Marvel's Midnight Suns. They included it here. It's interesting. Probably a smart move. Give it its due.
That make the 210s in 2022?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we had barely started it. It was one of those types of things where I think like Jacob was pretty hot on it, even out of the gate. And
Jeff had played it and were really hot on it.
There we go.
I saw it on a few of 2024 lists, which I think is fair, because it is such a big game.
2023 list, but
2023, thank you.
The Talos Principle 2 for number 3. Now we're getting to the fun territory. Number 2 for the most underrated games according to the MinnMax community, Honkai Star Rail, which to be fair to us, we said it's probably great. We just didn't get around to playing it. And then number 1, this is again what made me think of Slay the Princess, Void Stranger. Void Stranger was the real hidden gem of 2023, where if you haven't seen it, it's like black and white Game Boy game that I guess goes to some really bizarre places. But I put it in my mind together with Slay the Princess just for black and white game that's big on Steam.
Those were, I think Void Stranger is pretty systems heavy, but those were like the best reviews that I read last year were of Void Stranger. It seemed like people who played that all the way through were like, no, this is good. I gotta tell you why.
Yeah,
but then I didn't play it.
Under 1,000 reviews on Steam.
Really? Yeah. So I guess just beloved for the people that play through it. But now for the real community 210s. This is the whole hive mind on Patreon and in the MinnMax Discord. They've been voting for weeks now to lock down the objective list. Are y'all ready for this?
Yes.
Number 20, Sarah, if you choose to believe it. Do you all want to do like trivia for these where you try and guess it?
No, that's too many trivias. No, immediately no.
Okay.
I mean,
but some of
you could do box office game. You could give us little hints. Maybe just for like, I don't know, 5 through 1.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Number 20 is a game that barely any of us played. I think some of us played it for a while and we're like, we know it's good. It's just not really hitting for us. But it's the 4th entry in a huge franchise. Juggernaut. It's a little bit.
We just said we don't want to do trivia.
We're pretty unanimous on that.
Well, it's going off Jacob. Some of them can be little trivia.
Top 5.
Yeah, the top 5.
Okay, so number 20 though, it's like
for some.
This one, it's like it's spooky. The cinematic in the beginning has a blood cape in it.
Yeah, I think Backstage Pass called it. Is it Diablo 4? Is that right?
It's Diablo 4. There. Yeah. What do you got there? What are you drinking?
Iced coffee.
Nice.
Oh,
it's all right with you.
Man. No, it is cool. Yeah, I thought it was like a White Russian. I thought we're in a whole new phase for 2024 or something.
It's a drink that perks you up and is quite tasty.
Heavily referenced in the Coen Brothers film.
Number 19 on the Objective 210s. Sarah, this one's published by Square. No, this is Octopath Traveler 2. Okay. Number 18 is the Dead Space remake. Number 17, Pikmin 4, which I got to say, in the pissy zone, Janet brought up the point that I also lost sleep about, where she's like, look, say what you will. I know it's not the most exciting game, but when it comes to just which games are the best designed games of 2023, like, you're telling me there's 20 games better than Pikmin 4? Yeah,
Yeah, that's
such a smooth drink of water.
That's one that I let go pretty quickly, and maybe in reflection was like, maybe I let that one die too fast.
Yeah.
But it's a very good game. I love Pikmin 4.
It's a very good game. Okay, number 16, Street Fighter 6. Number 15, Lies of P. That's where it belonged, Jacob. Not in the upper 10s.
All right, I think six lower, and then that's it.
Okay. 14 is Cocoon. 13, Starfield. Number 13 from the community.
Like Starfield.
Yeah. Number 12 is Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty. Gets up there pretty high. Number 11, Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, a game I returned to after we completed our 210s, and I did finish.
Oh yeah, what'd you think?
Yeah, I think that game starts rough and gets better and better and better as it goes, and ends really strong. I think that game ultimately is quite good. I don't regret it not being on our 210s. I don't think I would have fought for it, but after I don't remember the timeline, but something came out pretty close to its release. Was it Zelda? It might have been Zelda.
Oh yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Like, because I had played the first 4 or 5 hours, and the second Zelda showed up, I was like, "Bye, Star Wars. I'm sorry," and didn't look back for months and months. But it really, the traversal stuff gets really cool later, and it gets closer to classic Prince of Persia than even the first one did, in a way that I really liked a lot. And the story is interesting. It's the most engaged I have been in with Star Wars since Last Jedi, probably.
Jeez,
I was nice. I actually wanted to see where it was going, what was going to happen, and the sort of the final villain of the game is quite interesting and good. So a good game. I really liked Jedi Survivor quite a lot.
I'm surprised that over the break you're like, you know what, Jedi Survivor. That's where I'm putting all my chips.
Yeah, it was. I had that in Final Fantasy 16 in front of me because it's like this. That's the only couple weeks where I feel completely free to play whatever I want. Truly, I can play whatever I want. I have no obligation, no professional obligation whatsoever to play something different during that time. And yeah, Star Wars was the one that I was felt like I didn't give a fair shake. And same for Final Fantasy. I actually ended up restarting Final Fantasy, and I'm 75-80% through now.
You restarted it?
Yeah, I restarted it. Yeah, I mean, because the plan initially was my wife and I were going to play together, and then we were just both this is not really grabbing us, and she wanted to play in story mode, and I was like, well, I want to play in action mode, so I decided to restart. Maybe it was silly, but yeah, I'm really trying to finish that game before 2024 starts, which it already has for me.
I got bad news, dude. We're way behind for 2024 games.
I know. I'm trying to rip through Final Fantasy, and then I'm playing Prince of Persia at night in bed on the Switch. I'm I can do this. I can get through Final Fantasy and still start my 2024. I can do this.
The good news is that January and February really only very short games that you couldn't spend 180 hours on easily.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear that.
Like a Dragon, Limited Wealth should be an easy one.
Yeah, I played Gaiden. That was pretty breezy. Infinite Wealth is pretty close to that, I imagine, right?
Yeah. Just imagine that. But imagine if it's that with the new game plus over and over and over again. It's kind of like a Starfield situation. Just never stop playing. But yeah, we should mention Prince of Persia. You're probably saying, "Where's your review for that? Come on, you cowards!" We are gonna play more of it next week. We'll be talking about it in a big way and unpacking it on next week's episode of the podcast. But Kyle, because technically we're recording this on Wednesday for Backstage Passers. Based on your preview gameplay, how was Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown?
Well, it's funny because I've actually literally not exceeded what I played for preview a few weeks ago.
Perfect. All right. Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it so far. I really like what I've played. And that extends to all facets of it, and even the story. I'm ooh, where's this going? This is really cool and interesting. So I'm very excited to keep playing. I'm very excited to finish Final Fantasy 16 and put all of my efforts into Prince of Persia.
Look, I didn't want to bring up 16 just to have us heap more mud on it, because I do like the game. Yeah. But it is sad that you're I'm very excited to get Final Fantasy 16 out of the way so I can get back to Prince of Persia.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel about it. I'm not over the moon for it. I do I'm sort of it's a very the very cinematic moments are worth seeing. And so kind of sprinting between these big cinematic moments, I'm happy to see them, if that makes sense. The big boss fights. I just beat Bahamut, so I can actually, you guys had.
Good news, you can stop playing. That's it.
Come on.
That's kind of what Wes LeBlanc told me over at Game Informer too. He's because I was hey, how far am I? And he's well, get to Bahamut. If you've made it this far, at least see that part, and then
I
make a
will
decision.
say I don't think you're 75 to 80%.
Well, I'm well beyond that now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's kind of the thing we talked about a little bit during the 210s, I guess, is it's just, it desperately wants you to keep playing. It removes all friction. Like, it'll tell you exactly where to go. It's not going to be that hard. And so it's a game that's very propelled to get you to the finish line, which is nice.
Like, but Spider-Man 2 did as well, but much better, if I'm being honest.
But hey, I was thinking about characters and I was like, Sid's cool. I think I might like Dion from 16 more than Sid, even the Mr. Bahamut himself. I was like, I think he was kind of cool.
You know who I like? Mid. She's fun.
Hang on. I'm going to watch the vein on Sarah's forehead.
No, I'm not saying anything, because then people will be like, Sarah's so negative. And nobody said anything nice here, but they're only going to say that I said something mean.
That is true. When you come after Mid, you come after all men, and all of men's interest, Sarah. It's outrageous.
I don't understand. Great. It feels like everybody loves Dion, and it's like he didn't do anything. Like, he just kind of shows up at the end and like steals Jill's thunder as like one of the boys. What is like? And then he kills his. I don't get it. I don't see it.
He's a great complainer about things not going his way.
I think you guys just think he's hot. I'm convinced this is some weird like men thinking other men are hot.
That's probably a little bit. Yeah.
By the way, Clive and Gav, they seem like they have a lot more connection.
They're so together. There's more sexual tension between
then.
Clive and Gav than Clive and Jill.
I'm
fine with it.
All right, I'm just glad. I'm glad to get reassurance on that.
Yeah.
Again, you're going to say there's no tension between Clive and Jill, Sarah. You're going to
have you seen Clive? The way Clive looks at Gav and the way Gav talks to Clive, they're totally in it together.
It is sweet. Hey, number 10 on this list, though, is Sea of Stars.
Great game.
Number 9, Rev Up Your Engines, Jacob. Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon.
Vroom.
As they like to say. Number 8, this must be a typo, Super Mario Brothers Wonder. It was number 8 the whole time, you guys. Number 7, Final Fantasy 16, made it to number 7 in the community list. You wonder why people hate it so much when we don't say it's the second coming of Christ, and maybe there's your answer. There's a lot of love for it. Number 6 is Hi-Fi Rush. Number 5, now the fun part starts.
This time.
Yes.
Number 5, Jacob, you brought it up in the 210s, and you said, it's this game plus this other thing, which makes it even better.
Ben, we've all deleted that conversation from our mind.
It's a traumatic
experience. It was like my RAM was like exceeded.
It's Resident Evil 4 in separate ways.
Okay.
Number 4 is a great spot for this game. The game that I don't know why I keep coming back to Jacob. The game that Jacob said was no. He said it was just too fun to put on the list that high. It was too good.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man. I'm sick of having fun in my games, he said, loudly into a microphone. Number
why
3,
is that your take? That game should be a punishment. I feel like we didn't get the full story on that.
Well, actually,
Punish
that's
Jeff
good. Number 3 was the game that was a punishment, but this was a good punishment. Jacob?
Alan Wake?
There we go. Alan Wake 2. It's not a punishment. It's a delight. Number 2, according to the community, Sarah, what do you think it is?
Is it because you said my name that it's Baldur's Gate 3?
No, I could have chosen everybody.
Is it Baldur's Gate 3?
It is Baldur's Gate 3. It is Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, really?
To be fair, our numbers are less. Our numbers are few, but we are strong.
Sarah's great at trivia.
I mean, your numbers are the most concurrent players on Steam ever, right?
Yeah.
I wonder, total sales-wise, I mean, I bet Baldur's Gate 3, because Zelda's at 20, 30 million, I think?
That's a good question.
I mean, Baldur's Gate can't be too far behind, with all the platforms it's on now. But then number 1 is Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. The community.
Actually, I'm honestly surprised. I thought Baldur's Gate would be number 1. So that's cool.
If you're looking for measurements, I think the Baldur's Gate 3 channel in the MinnMax Discord has been the most active all year. So it's the most discussed game. That's worth something.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's just me, yeah. But hey, thank you so much to everybody who voted in the big community poll to determine scientifically the correct list of the 210s. Greatly appreciate it. How are you all feeling? Do you all also get up in your head about that idea of like, oh, I'm never going to feel more recharged than I am right now after the big break? Like, do you all feel fresh and raring to go for 2024?
No. I still feel kind of exhausted. I don't know why.
I feel charged and ready, but still, like, I'm on vacation, so it's like this weird feeling of like I'm remoting into my computer back home, and I feel like I'm trying to get the year started while wearing 2 oven mitts, like technically, you know, and just like organizationally. So I feel pretty good. I'm looking forward to being.
And that makes you feel good about 2024?
I'm excited about things we have planned for 2024. Which, speaking of, we have some medium-sized announcements, I guess is the best way to put it, coming up next week. It'll be a Patreon post where we're kind of outlining some positive changes to MinnMax here that I think people will be excited about. No one's really joining and no one's really leaving, if that's a hint for anybody. But I guess there's kind of an asterisk next to a positive version of that. But yeah, I am excited for the year up ahead. And so I'm excited to get home and have like a day of just fully going down my to-do list and like, you know, getting the new overlays ready for 2024 and those redesigns and prepping up like, oh, these are the things we're changing and stuff. But I shouldn't be there as that your head shaking.
I don't know. You just terrify me as a person. Because I dragged my beaten and battered corpse into the year 2024, and I threw myself over that finish line, and I said, "Let's go! I'm still here."
I'm really excited to do new overlays.
Yeah,
Sarah.
And now I gotta put in a new overlay with a chat feature, figure out how that works.
Don't spoil it. Well, I did see your streams were all like, 2024 is the year of rot. Let's soak in our disgusting rot.
Yeah, no, I'm 2024. I'm lowering
rotten.
my standards. I'm lowering my expectations.
Yes.
Like I'm here to rot.
Where's that coming from?
I'm tired.
Gonna rot
I'm tired.
your
Like
son.
when do I just get to coast?
You're going on vacation all next week.
Yeah, and that's where I'm gonna rot in Mexico
Oh,
on the sands.
that sounds
Oh, yeah.
beautiful. Hey, Sarah, I know you lived in LA for a while, but.
Yeah.
And I think it's just being a real Minnesota lake boy, but like spending this much time by the ocean, it's really become fascinating on a kind of dorky level. Like it turns out things are changing all the time. It's just fun to like wake up every morning and be like, I don't know how tall these waves are going to be today. Some days
Have you
they're
discovered
like
the tides? Is this
Don't even get me started
Minnesota
on
man
these tides.
discovers tides?
I forget where I was. We were on some vacation at some point. And I really embarrassed myself by like asking a tour guide or like somebody at a restaurant or something like what time is low tide every day? And they're like, no, it does not work that way, you idiot. It's a whole different system. But no, like it's wild because like it's not based on the wind. And some mornings you go out there and I do a little bodyboarding in the morning. That's like the most fun thing ever. And sometimes the waves are like huge, like way taller than me, and they just destroy me. Other times I'm paddling around trying to find something cool. But it's fun to like spend so much time next to the ocean that you feel like you start to appreciate like this is really changing on a daily basis. And like we have neighbors at this Airbnb who have lived here for a long time, and they were walking through just like, you know, obviously with Hurricane Maria a lot changed here, but they were just talking about like how much has changed over just the last 6 years on this beach. And it's like, oh yeah, like houses have crumbled into the ocean, and like there's like remnants of a house over here that's actually the top floor of the house because the sand has just like covered up everything else. And it's fun to appreciate nature on a weird, big level and learn to understand that the ocean is much more dynamic.
It's fun to come face to face with the results of global warming. That house used to not be underwater.
I mean, it was one hurricane.
I can't believe that the community didn't vote for 2 oceans for New Show Plus, and so
when
you're just trying to sneak it in
passionate.
Yeah, for New Show Plus, we were going to stream the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. I was really excited about that. And the plan was, I'll reveal it now because it didn't win. The plan was it was going to be like a stream of the ocean and stuff. But then I was just going to set up my camera and then just jump out and go swimming and go bodyboarding. And then the stream would just be me bodyboarding.
I mean, you can't be upset when plans don't win when you don't fully communicate what your plan is. You know, you can't keep it as a little surprise.
I get it. But also, I'm curious to see how it would go. And again, I'm looking for people who are hip to the ocean to tell me if I'm too much of a dweeb. But I was out there swimming on like one of the early days that we got here, and I was like looking in the water because it's not that deep. It's decently deep. It's the ocean. And then like I turned around and was like waving to my wife, and I'm like, there's a fish that just went by me that's like 4 or 5 feet big. She's like, what? That's wild. And then it swam back, and I was like, no, that's absolutely a shark. And so I had the weird moment of like, I'm just going to get out of the ocean for a little bit and do a little research. It's like, oh yeah, there's Caribbean reef sharks all over the place. They're super common in the shallow waters.
Are they friendly?
And then it was a real moment of like feeling like I triumphed over nature, where it's like the end of Home Alone, of walking out like, I'm not afraid anymore. And I went back in, and it was kind of, especially if I had a couple of drinks in me, like I was hoping to see that shark again. Like I know they're not going to bite me. I know there's like such a small percentage chance. So it's just cool to be in a body of water and maybe see a shark swim by you. But
and you could take
that. I just want to see it. I want to like rub up against it a little bit, I think. But I don't know. Ocean people, let me know. Is it a very Midwestern stupid idea to even be scared of sharks? I guess is my question.
No, I mean, like, I think, to keep your distance from all wildlife. When I lived in LA, you have to, like, if you go out into the ocean, you're supposed to, like, shuffle your feet a little bit because there's stingrays in the ocean. Ooh. And, like, if you step on a stingray, it's, like, game over for you. So you have to, like, shuffle your feet and, like, kind of stay away from the seals. But, yeah, I don't know. We come from lakes where there's not a lot of, like, predators, there's not a lot to look out for. Yeah,
snapping
that's like the scariest
thing.
Besides like leeches that you could get involved with.
A fish started biting my nipple in a Minnesota lake.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
How much did you charge?
It bit my nipple a couple times. It was really weird. I got out. We were chilling by the water. Somebody else went swimming, and they're like, oh, whoa, ow. And I was like, did a fish just bite your nipple? And he was like, yes.
Were you guys lactating?
Yeah.
Lactating blood at a certain point. But just imagine if that was a Caribbean reef shark, Leo. How cool would you be?
You'd be dead.
Just a little nipple nibble.
Yeah, what a story that would be.
Yeah.
Turns out it was a shark.
You can just say that. I mean, that's where legends come from. Just start it, man. Where I think Pecos Bill got his start.
North Carolina has lakes that have like brain-eating parasites or
we have those too.
Whatever. Which I assume I got at some point, and that's why I feel the way I do about video games.
We were all talking about like what we played over the break and stuff like that in our Monday meeting. The one that really captured my imagination for being so bizarre and so cool. Jacob, you played Chrono Trigger through its entirety?
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm sorry. Sarah scoffed. Should not be that in love with the idea of like playing Chrono Trigger.
I knew when like Jacob said he was playing Chrono Trigger, I was like, well, there goes the podcast. Like, my best friend is playing my favorite game.
Yeah, there goes the podcast to Good Podcast Town, USA. Beep, population 5 more people.
MinnMax was built on the back of Chrono Trigger in some small way.
Well, and here's the thing. I listened to the whole Deepest Dive like as I was playing through it at the correct intervals, which was really fun because I was like, I want someone to talk to about this game. And then instead I could just pretend that I was talking to these people who are now my coworkers.
Oh, weird. Okay, so
hold on. Can we zoom out and just get like a baseline? Like, did you like it? Like, did it hold up for you?
Oh, yeah, cool. I really liked it. I was feeling guilty that I was feeling guilty that I hadn't played any of the JRPGs that Kelsey liked during the 210s. And then I thought, well, maybe I should play Sea of Stars because that feels more approachable than starting like Octopath or something. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to play Sea of Stars, I've never played Chrono Trigger.
Oh my God.
Why not? And I do kind of like to spend the end of the year doing kind of like a, there's no pressure. I'm not playing any new releases. Let's do some like kind of gaming homework or like let's play a classic while there's no pressure to play new stuff. And I did, and I thought it was great.
Yeah. What was the biggest hurdle? Like going back to a game from 1995. For a lot of folks, there's going to be some learning curve or something that's just convoluted. I'm trying to remember, even from the Deepest Dive, if there's any areas that we thought were kind of a pain in the butt.
I mean, the biggest hurdle, honestly, was not age. It was genre in that, like, I have really not played a, like, true kind of turn-based RPG before. I've played kind of variations. I played Yakuza Like a Dragon last year. But, like, the kind of classic turn-based battle thing, and the Chrono Trigger battle system is like even more kind of chaotic because everyone is like recharging at different rates, so it's kind of not turn-based. But like I just found it very challenging because I am not used to the genre, and so I had to kind of like learn how to do the battle system in a way.
Yeah, I think like the Masa and Mune fight's kind of like a real skill check. Like I remember that one being a challenge. At least back when I played it, but
I am so used to final bosses not being that hard. And I really struggled with the final boss with this one.
Did you like the design of Lavos at the end for the final fight? Like, because he has so many, it's such a weird cosmic entity, and I love that idea. But then it's just kind of, here's multiple phases of just attack a weird blob on the left or right. It's cool how abstract it is, but it's almost too abstract for its own good.
Yeah, I don't know. It got weird. I think I played the Steam version, which I think had actually more generous checkpointing than the original, in that it would kind of like bookmark areas. But there was a large section of that Lavos fight where I died, and I would have to fight the boss on the like black spaceship first, and then Lavos being all the bosses that you fought before. I had to go through like that whole rush like 4 times, and so it was I was feeling, you know, I was definitely feeling the kind of like, oh, this game is giving friction. It is not a Spider-Man 2 where it's fun every 30 seconds. But like I what y'all said on the Deepest Dive, which I agree with, is like all the characters are cool, which is the biggest thing, where it's just like none of the characters are uninteresting except for Magus. But you know, it's like everyone got their little like story beat loyalty mission thing, and like I did all of them, and they were just also kind of like compellingly written.
Yeah, the one where when Robo is just like farming in the fields for hundreds of years, being a good.
I love that.
Oh my god! So and then you find him and he's freaking like completely dead or whatever, and then Luca just kind of like turns a wrench on him and he wakes up again. But it's weird that they only do the time travel stuff like almost at the end game. Like it takes so long to get the ship and be able to freely move between time periods, and that's like every side mission is then at that point where you could ostensibly just go, you know, finish the game.
Yeah. I remember when I think back on that game now, I mainly think of like that scene around the campfire where they're just talking about the quote unquote entity. In the Deepest Dive discussion, was I gushing over that scene, or has it grown with time of just like how cool and strange it is just to be like, is this game acknowledging itself? Is it acknowledging the players, acknowledging God? Like, what is this discussion? It was so strange.
You did talk about it. I don't think you talked about it enough just because of how cool I think it was. So like, you know, you spent time on it, but like if I was there, we would have spent even more time on it.
I talked to Masato Kato, the writer for that game, in a MinnMax interview, and we have a clip on YouTube where it's him, where I was trying to just nail down like, what was that? What was the entity? Was it Earth? Was it God? Was it the player? So he shares his thoughts on that, and it's still fun because I think every once in a while, I also made a standalone video, which is maybe where I really gushed about it, just talking about like what is the entity. Every once in a while, I still get YouTube comments, and they're like, I forget what they say, you know, it's Magus, you idiot, or like some specific thing like that, where it's like, well, actually, the writer of the game says otherwise, so let me direct you to this other YouTube video. Anyways, that's so sweet. Does it feel good to do gaming homework like that?
Yeah, well, so I played that, and then I also played Metal Gear Solid for Something Rotten, and so like having those two games back to back was like, it feels like, you know, the thing where you like watch The Godfather and you realize that there have been 20 Simpsons bits that have referenced The Godfather and you didn't get them until now. Like that's kind of the feeling I have playing these games, where it's like I've seen so many parodies of these, not even realizing what they were parodying, and now I can.
Yeah, and it's just like so many games and indie RPGs that are trying to have the heart that Chrono Trigger has, and I hope it still comes through. Just like the tone and the characters and just the sweetness of that overall game that I always feel I'm, you know, too sensitive to it, but I'm always just like, I don't know. If you're just trying to replicate that tone, it feels a little bit like, you know, studios that are like, we're trying to make a Team Eco style game, where it's like, well, good luck. That's a very specific tone to hit, and I don't think he got it in yet. Like, you need to really be a light, hit by lightning to make that happen. I feel like Chrono Trigger and kind of the heart of Chrono Trigger is a similar way. But I haven't finished Sea of Stars, and people definitely say that it's getting close, right, Kyle?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I mean, the fact that you just played Chrono Trigger, I feel like I shouldn't recommend. Well, now you can go play Sea of Stars because it's like, you've had a very similar experience. I don't know if you want to jump into that right away, but maybe someday in the future, if you have a Chrono Trigger itch come back, like Sea of Stars is fantastic, and it capitalizes on the things that made Chrono Trigger so great, and still has its own identity for sure.
Hey, speaking of homework, you can't do homework without a house, and that's where Sarah Pozorski comes barging in. I'm sorry. Hang on. Quick. Kyle has to ruin the segue. Yes.
I'm so sorry. Because I did want to do a quick get a load of this because we're talking about Chrono Trigger. I just wanted to shout out on Netflix. There's a new anime that just premiered called Delicious in Dungeon. It's based on very popular manga that my family has read the full manga. They love it.
Here we go.
Mitsuda did the soundtrack for that anime.
Really?
Yeah, which is just kind of a cool, interesting thing that I see a lot of people talking about it. It's already quite popular. People like the show, but I don't think a lot of people know that Mitsuda did the music for it. So I just wanted to show.
Do they have the robot song in there?
Maybe.
We've been singing that a lot in my house. Okay, Ben, go.
Speaking of houses, you can't have a house without a house, and if you have a house, you probably want to make it better, and that's why Sarah comes barging through with sledges as an homage to Rainbow Six Siege's weapons, sledges, sledgehammer. I don't know.
Going wide.
Rope Leo into Sarah's Improving Houses and House Flipper 2.
Okay, I was wondering if you were gonna like switch it at the last minute to the finals for Leo with like redoing interiors. I thought you were gonna like do a right turn there. Yeah. But yeah, House Flipper 2 came out. It is, I mean, to be honest, House Flipper 1 it kind of just looked like a bunch of Unity assets and like a basic simulator game, but like I still had fun with it. And in House Flipper 2, they actually actually made it a game. They gave it a little more plot, and they gave you a lot of options. You can now like actually demolish walls and like put up new walls. You could like build an entire structure. You couldn't do that in the original? I think maybe you weren't able to like really like knock down walls, like put in windows where you wanted to put in windows, like put in doors where you want to put doors. It was pretty like set in stone. And all you could really do was sort of like clean, fix, decorate, paint, do all that kind of stuff. But yeah, in this one, you can absolutely just demolish a home, and there's so much more you can do with it. And they've added, I get a little like overwhelmed because they added like a full color wheel. It used to be you only would have like a few colors for furnitures, but now they're like, here's a full color wheel. Pick whatever color you want. And then here's a bunch of different material types from like wood to stone to plastic to metal. And then here's a bunch of patterns. And I'm like, this is too much. Like, it used to just be like, here's an ugly Unity couch next to another ugly Unity couch. Like, pick the lesser ugly Unity couch. And now they've really sort of blown it up and kind of made it a lot more where you can actually get things like just the way you want them. They also have it where you can like, literally it's so detailed, you can attach lighting to specific switches. Before it would just be like the room it was in, but now you can set lamps to like specific light switches, which just feels so, it's like we're really getting down into like the minute details of House Flipper 2. And they also sort of, it used to just be houses in a neighborhood, but now they're like, here's a house on the beach, here's a house in the woods, like here's a beach house, here's a house in the, like, I don't know, it's kind of wild how much they've sort of like blown it up, and I just can't wait for them to add like the more fun stuff that they had in House Flipper 1, because they did like really cool stuff for like Halloween where there was like haunted houses, and while you're flipping the house there's like a literal ghost. Like fun. They do like a bunch of like haunted house tropes on you like while you're just trying to clean the house. And then as you clean it goes away. So they have a lot of like really fun like community things as well. But yeah, I'm just really impressed.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, I like that first game. It's one of those games that I played, 3 hours of, and it's like, well, this is just satisfying to clean up a house and improve and all that stuff. But you had to like a little quest of like going like, kind of on like missions in the first one, but like they've added. I'm worried when you say they added story stuff or more story context.
Well,
I don't think I want that. I just want to clean up a house.
They kind of made it so it would be like you could do like more like smaller missions, because sometimes when you're doing a whole house, you get kind of like overwhelmed and you're like, I don't want to work on this anymore. And then you'll go pick up like an email and it's like, hey, we're doing, one of them was like, we have a museum on like forestry, and we need you to like redo the interior of our forestry museum, and you only have to do like 3 specific rooms with like a very specific goal with like very specific items they want you to put in it. So there are some that are like a little more structured just for when you get a little overwhelmed with like the bigger homes and it takes a lot of time, especially with all the options they've added.
What was that Animal Crossing DLC? Is this kind of like that?
Happy Home
like
Paradise?
Happy Home Designer?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, is it like that, but on like a different, larger scale, or?
It kind of is. Happy Home Paradise, they added a bunch of like decorating features to just like the base game of Animal Crossing, but it's pretty similar. I would say that it's a little. This is a little more, even more in the weeds than Happy Home Paradise. Happy Home Paradise was just like, add some furniture, change like the walls, put a lamp up. But this is like, all right, we're busting open the kitchen. We're doing open concept now. We're taking this wall down. We're gonna shift the front door a little bit and like landscape it so it looks nice. But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun. It's a good like podcast game. It's a good just like zone out game.
Oh yeah, House Flipper 2, and it's just on Steam.
I don't know. Okay. That's where I'm playing it.
All right, it seems.
And did it enter? It was this like it entered 1.0 like late last year? Is that, or am I misunderstanding?
It was like December 14th is when it came out.
Oh, like it came out. It wasn't like an early access thing. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, it came out.
Nice.
And you can't have a house without destroying a wall, which has me craving destruction in all video games. And it's only available in the finals, the game that Leo championed last year. And now after the holiday break, are you saying I'm an idiot? We should have put it higher on the list?
Maybe.
Ooh.
I wouldn't be opposed fighting for it on a different year when it had something notable or something.
If you put it up, Hitman Freelancer's going down.
It's the way it works, man. It's water displacement 101.
I like it. I like it even more than I did. I feel like I like it more every time. I'm still scratching the surface of what it has. Despite there being no new updates, it's been kind of painful going through the holiday season, with certain things being a little overtuned. But obviously they're not working and they're not patching it yet, even though they've been pretty fast about that beforehand.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's interesting things going on, like the way elements interact. There's a lot of setting up gas clouds around the point to defend it, but you can put that out with fire. If you like spray a flamethrower at it or do a pyro grenade near it, it'll just like explode the gas and dissipate it. Or if there's fire on a point, you can throw a smoke canister at it and it'll put out the fire. Like, I'm just now getting the hang of thinking of those kinds of solutions in the moment. There's a lot of unique things like that just keep showing their depth the more hours I put into it.
Yeah, if you don't remember the finals, it's that the 3v3?
V3.
V3. Okay, 3 different teams. Free to play?
That's correct.
Okay, first person shooter from former DICE people. Yes. Yeah, guns with cool cosmetics, I remember you were saying?
Cool cosmetics, indeed. I regret to say I'm $80 in on the cosmetics right now, but
that's part of the problem, Leo.
That's gotta support those devs.
The problem of supporting cool cosmetics. It was $80 into Rumbleverse, and when that went down, they refunded everybody right into their bank accounts automatically. So I'm seeing it as kind of that Rumbleverse money that I already spent. Now I just
maybe you'll get it back
with no interest.
Yes.
And I mean, there's no chance that the finals is going to implode in a Rumbleverse style way.
Does this have like staying power, would you say?
So far it's doing really well. It's hard to say if people are going to fall off because, anytime you go on any game subreddit, everybody is so confident that today is the last day the game is successful, and it's so screwed from here on out because of there's like cheaters or whatever, which they will probably crack down on and it'll be fine. I think it does have staying power. I think I sure haven't gotten tired of it at all yet, and I probably will go in and out depending on the season. I'm already almost done with the first battle pass, and maybe my desire to play will go down after that. What I really love is that the cosmetics come in sets of like 12 pieces. If you get an outfit, you get the hands of that outfit, the feet of that outfit to make other outfits with, and I just get obsessed about that. I love making cool outfits.
Do you feel like you always just need like a competitive shooter in your life? And for so long it was Siege, and then I don't know what was filling the gap beyond that.
Not much. This really is giving me those Siege feelings. But I think that is a specific niche that I do crave. But it also is like the pendulum swinging sometimes. I'm sure it will go like, I'm exhausted from putting so much energy into a high frenetic shooter for so long that now I'll go back to like only indies for a while or only single player stuff for a while. That's how it tends to go for me for sure.
Yeah, I'd imagine Like a Dragon limited amount of wealth. That's going to be like the perfect kind of decompressed game. Go build up that weird Animal Crossing island in that game and all that weird stuff. Like, it's like a good combo.
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, over my break, I was trying to figure like, all right, what game am I going to play on the vacation here? I feel like I don't just want to dabble. I want like a mission of finishing a game. And so I had Super Mario RPG sitting there, and I was like, that seems like a great vacation game. Seems easy. I have Star Ocean, Second Story R, which I still haven't finished on my Switch. And I started playing that again. I'm like, you know what? I need the big screen. I need to like soak this in. I can't play a game that's even a little bit complex handheld, I feel like, you know? And so I fulfilled my mission and my promise to the MinnMax community, and I finished Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon on Nintendo Switch.
Right on time.
Please, I'm no hero. And that's why we're cracking open the 210s and putting it right at the top. I blasted through that game. It's longer than I thought, but I enjoyed it. It's a fun game. If you don't remember, this is the isometric fairy book style spin-off prequel for the Bayonetta series that released early 2023. And Jacob, there's that weird thing where like they teased it in Bayonetta 3, right? Of having like a little playable chunk.
Yeah, and that chunk was, I think, so bad that it like I was like, I'm not playing. It's been surprising to hear that Bayonetta Origins was like good at all, because that chunk was not. And so like I would love to hear about why it's good, because I feel like I formulated my opinion wrongly based on that like a teaser that they had in Bayo 3.
Yeah, it's just a rock solid little action adventure. But the big hook, if you don't remember for this thing, is you're controlling little baby Bayonetta, otherwise known as Cereza, in this game with the right stick, with the left stick, and then the right stick you're controlling Cheshire, who's the big demon. And so it ends up just being a really funky control scheme where in combat you're controlling Bayonetta with the left stick, and then like she can kind of throw down snares. It's kind of like her big thing because she's not the full Umbra Witch, yada, yada, yada. So she's not attacking in a big way at the start of the game, at least. And so you're like throwing down snares and kind of trapping enemies in it, and then coming in with the right stick and controlling Cheshire as he's coming through and just wrecking house as a big melee beast. And then throughout the course of the game, which is largely just a lot of environmental puzzles, stuff like that, but really clever stuff with the two sticks. You know, it's like, okay, there'll be a big spinning wheel over here, so you got to run Cheshire over here and then run on this kind of hamster wheel that if you then run this way, it'll raise and lower platform, then you control her this way. So it's kind of like a lot of Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons style puzzles. But the cool thing is that at any point, you can hit the right button and recall Cheshire back to you. So it's not like the full game of trying to navigate, like, okay, which thumb is which person, where on the map. If it ever gets complicated, just like recall Cheshire, and you can have a break from the wacky control scheme, which I think is a really nice balance.
Is it wacky in terms of like other stuff? Because it's like I think one of the things that I was a little turned off by with the art style is like, you know, I think of Bayonetta as like, this is a game where you're going to kill God, and God is going to look insane. And like, I did not think that art style maybe looked capable of doing that, but I could be wrong.
I mean, it gets bigger and a little more abstract and cool by the end, for sure. But like, you know, throughout the course of it, you're unlocking new elemental types for Cheshire and then swapping between those modes and all that stuff, which is a cool dynamic, and it helps you do different puzzles. It's like, okay, you're on this lily pad, now you can shoot a water sprout, that'll launch you in different areas, and yada, yada, yada. But it is an interesting tone because it's very much like, you know, children's fairy tale style tone for this thing. And it's very sweet. Like Bayonetta and Cheshire have a real bond. It's kind of a fun dynamic where they're not pleased with each other at times, but believe it or not, throughout the course of the game, they're going to really rely on each other's friendship and stuff and save each other's butt a bunch of times. But it's such a sweet game that then I didn't play Bayonetta 3. So then I wanted to feel like, is Cheshire in Bayonetta 3? Like, what is going on here? So I looked up just a YouTube cutscene compilation of Bayonetta 3, and I was horrified. Like, what is this tone? This is so night and different from this sweet little story. Suddenly it's just like this obnoxious, and it's like Cheshire is like this obnoxious beast, like riding a unicycle or something. I don't know what this crap is.
Right. Well, and Cheshire is attached to Viola, not Bayonetta, and Viola is like nails on a chalkboard as a character, and so it's like it's exacerbating how bad it already is by kind of the pairing.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it so much, and it feels like maybe deserved a little bit more love in 2023. I don't think it would have cracked my personal top 10 or the 210s overall. I wouldn't have been fighting it, but it feels like a good bubbler type of game, you know? But it does make me wonder, like, if it was just an indie charming action adventure game from Platinum with a funky control scheme released in 2023, would it have done better than here's Bayonetta is a solid franchise, not a juggernaut, and now we're making an offset of that franchise that's tailor-made to fans of stylish action games who also like fairy tales. You know, it's like it's just a subset of a subset, and I feel like this game maybe would have done better if it was out of a Bayonetta mold.
Yeah, it feels like the here are the two things that I like about Bayonetta. One, great 3D stylish action. Two, it's fun and sexy. And I looked at that game and I was like, oh, so neither of those things. Like it's removing the two things I like about it.
It is fun. It's fun and sexless, just like Final Fantasy 16. It's really the best you could ever hope for. But it made me think about just games with funky control schemes, and it's like, this feels like it's going to be a cult classic. When people are doing at the end of the Switch's life, which is this year probably, we're going to see a lot of like the best games to come to Switch. I think there's going to be a groundswell of people being like, don't forget Bayonetta Origins is super underrated. But then it made me think of like just the cult hit games that have funky control schemes. And I feel like even Astral Chain from Platinum is another one where you're also controlling two characters, right, on Switch, which is weird. But I was thinking about like, Kyle, pop quiz, cult hit, funky control schemes. What do you got?
Advent Rising.
Advent Rising. What was weird about that one?
You attacked enemies with telekinetic powers by flicking the right control stick. So you would like flick the right control stick, and he would like use his hand to launch enemies off into space. And it was super fun.
Like Skate.
Sounds sweet.
A little bit.
Skate. Ooh, is Skate a cult hit? That's one notch above cult hit, right?
That's a gosh.
I'm trying to think of like the funkiest control schemes to have mass appeal. Because I was thinking about
Tony Hawk is like the mainline skateboarding game. Isn't Skate the sort of cult offshoot? I mean, not offshoot. Not the wrong word.
It was
but
big. I don't think it was culty.
Yeah, one notch above it maybe. But what was the one you said, Leo, for weird control schemes that was a success?
Original Resident Evil 4?
On the Wii.
On the Wii? Okay,
mode.
It was unique for the time.
Katamari?
Oh, yeah.
That's but again, this kind of, it's still cultish. Maybe it's in the Skate. Skate and Katamari are in the same level of success, I think. Like, it's getting sequels, but it's not going to be
rolling around.
It's ultimately about rolling around. But I was thinking about like Zack and Wiki on the Wii, or Steel Battalion. It feels like games that really have too strange of control schemes naturally are limiting themselves, and so they end up just being relegated to cult hit status, which is
every VR game. You know, it's like that's the most. It is the most exciting thing about VR is that no one's agreed on how to make them control, and so they're all like different and weird. But it means that they're all weird.
That's exciting. Like you like
yes.
that.
Yeah, no, genuinely, I think
because I want everyone to use Alex's flick system. I don't ever want to reach for something
that's
ever again.
But I think it is a little disappointing that you know how every game is going to control before you pick it up with a controller. Like I wish that there was more, that every first person shooter didn't control like exactly the same.
I mean, you're coming from somebody who's did a podcast that was raving about why am I blank Killer 7.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, or even The Darkness 2 or whatever, just like having kind of weird things. But it's like, yeah, we've just decided on a control scheme and it works and it's good for everyone and that's fine. But like, it does kind of limit what you can do.
Yeah, but I mean, with this weird layout for Bayonetta Origins, it allows for there's a weird upgrade you can get, which is unbelievably satisfying. Where when you have Cheshire like recalled and you're like holding her like a little kitty. Little stuffed animal kitty, you can use the right stick then, and if you point in a direction and if you're running in that direction, you get a speed boost because it like extends out the cat like this whole arm thing, which is how you're picking up collectibles. But that's just a good example of like I've never played a game like that where if I'm running a direction, I use the right stick and also point that direction, and an extendo arm pops out and just like shoots you forward that direction. And so it's a weird, funky thing. And I don't think, the presentation is awesome in Bayonetta Origins. Like the art's really super cool. It gave me beautiful Joe vibes every once in a while. And maybe it's just thinking about, Kamiya, who this was his last game at Platinum. He was like the supervising director, I think was his title for this thing. And it's kind of it could be the mark of like the end of a super funky era from Platinum. I don't know what their future is going to hold, but when Kamiya, who, director of Resident Evil 2, Okami, Sarah, your favorite, obviously Devil May Cry.
Yeah, speaking of weird cult strange controls, right? Okami.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that.
Also on the Wii.
Yeah.
Right.
And God Hand as well, actually. Was Kamiya involved with God Hand? That's another game that controls kind of strangely.
I think it was Mikami.
Okay.
I was involved with that one. But anyways, so I mean, he left and started his own YouTube channel, and he said the reason he was leaving Platinum was, I decided to leave because I felt the direction of the company was heading in was different from my beliefs as a developer. Without that element of trust, I couldn't continue working there, and so I left, so that I could continue working in what I consider to be the right way. So it is that weird, bold stance. It's like, I don't like where this company's going, and I'm one of the founders, so I'm out. And so now I wonder if we're going to look back with even more fondness for Bayonetta Origins in the future as kind of being the swan song from this legendary developer at, the company he started over there. But maybe they'll make more Babylon Smalls.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you look back at the games Platinum has made over the past 10 years, it's not like it was like, oh, what a pure run, and now it's spoiled.
I mean,
what was that live service game? What was that called?
Babylon's Fall.
Oh, is that what you just said? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. It is, I mean, the classic thing of like, okay, this is A-Team Platinum, this is B-Tier Platinum, and all that stuff for like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, the Transformers game, didn't they make an Avatar game? Am I hallucinating?
That was Korra, Legend of Korra.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'll remember it.
There was like a bad period. I mean, that Transformers game was kind of good, as was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one. Like, or maybe it was bad. I don't know.
I reviewed that one. It controlled really well. It was one of those games that you play as like, ooh, I wish I had a different game that I played like this with these characters.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it is a cool game that certainly deserves more love for Bayonetta Origins here, and I'm very curious to see where Platinum goes in the future. I mean, if they just make the next Nier game and it's as good as Automata, I don't think people will really think of it, but who knows? Hey, Leo, do you know how this whole thing operates?
I don't know, man.
Kyle, do you know?
No one knows. It's the universe's great question.
We need somebody to say this. Jacob, do you know how this whole thing operates?
Patreon.
That's right, everybody. My God, Patreon, patreon.com/.
Did you message him that?
2 N's. I did, desperately. Thanks everybody who's jumped in and found a tier that's right for them. Thanks everybody for jumping up to that Backstage Pass tier to check out early access to the 210s and the Pissy Zone, a post-show discussion. Thanks for all the kind words on that. It's available in the Discord if you're at that Backstage Pass tier. Feel free, by the way, to drop your tier down for 2024. We're not begging you to do it, but it's one of those situations of you just find the tier that's right for you and it's sustainable for you, because that's the only way things are sustainable for us. And Leo, you're questioning this as a business strategy.
For a second I did, but it's a beautiful thing to say. I respect it a lot.
It's true, though. I mean, I don't want anyone pushing their limits. And so if it's a matter of like, hey, I unlocked the Pissy Zone thing at the Backstage Pass tier, I'm happy to jump back down if, again, it's sustainable, because we want to keep this whole thing sustainable here.
Right.
But thank you to some of our bigger supporters, like I Am 8-Bit. They want everybody to know about, first of all, they want everybody to know that they're the best and very cool. Mm-hmm. And they have in their store, available for pre-order now, they have the Persona 3 portable vinyl soundtrack and the Persona 4 golden soundtrack. You can pre-order both of those vinyl soundtracks. Kyle, name a soundtrack better than either of those.
There's not many. I mean, it's Persona 5?
Okay, yeah, but this is for 3 and 4, so let's focus on those, please.
No, those are fantastic.
Music by the Atlas Sound Team, album art by Drew Wise. It is a super cool vinyl soundtrack, so check it out at I Am 8-Bit's wonderful online store. And you can use the promo code for everything under $100. And to be honest, I'm not sure if this works for pre-orders, but for everything else in the store, you can use the promo code now. It's Old Games Zine. AULD Game SYNE. It's in the description if you want the exact spelling of Old Game Zine for 10% off everything under $100 from I'm 8-Bit. And help thank them by checking out their online store, because they thank the MinnMax community each and every week by shipping out a prize. Whoever has the best question submitted over there on Patreon. If you jump in on Patreon at any tier, you can submit a question for the show. We choose our favorite each and every week, and they win a prize, physical prize from I'm 8-Bit. All you people out there that say, more physical media, I'm 8-Bit will ship this awesome prize to your house. It's physical as all hell. And Leo, just as evidence that we have a cool partner for this podcast with I'm 8-Bit, the prize this week is the Grim Fandango vinyl soundtrack.
Yes.
Can you imagine submitting a question for a podcast that you like just fine, and then the people in the podcast like that question, you think, oh, that feels good. And then they like it so much, it's question of the week, and then like a week later, a Grim Fandango vinyl soundtrack shows up in your frickin' mailbox, crammed in and broken, but still shoved in your mailbox.
That sounds like one of the best lives on earth that one could have.
Name a better soundtrack. You can't come up with one.
I can't. So I'm 8-Bit. Help support them. They're great. All right. Y'all ready for community questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow. So if I don't know how to cook, I'm just screwed this week?
That's it. Yeah.
Wow.
Starve till next week.
Damn.
Dunder writes in and says, hey, Ben and the CLCs, do you play video games when you go on vacation? Do you maybe pack up a console or bring your Switch or Steam Deck and play during some downtime? Is there a certain kind of game that should be considered a vacation game? My wife and I have a Hawaiian vacation coming up, and I'm looking forward to playing Dave the Diver on the beach. That's good. The nice pairing. That's perfect.
I don't know if I'd play games on the beach. There's just too much sand.
Yeah, I can.
And like I would play it looking at the beach, but I don't think I'd ever bring like my Switch onto the beach physically.
It seems to be like looking out a window. Because also, the sad thing too is the sun, beautiful, bright on the beach. Terrible. You're going to be squinting. You can't tell when a shark's coming for you in Dave the Diver or in real life at that point. You're done. But you all play games on vacation?
Ray Luaza in the chat reminds us that you do have to put on the Burger King crown.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Put that crown on.
Good call. Good call. Thank you.
He was trying
like
to get
having
away
a game
with
with me on vacation. I focused on one recently when I went to Thailand. Just like laying around in bed playing Switch. I do try to commit to one game, one system, because if you're like, like back in the day, I would be like, well, let me bring my 3DS and my Vita, and now it's like, let me bring my Switch and my Steam Deck. It's like, no, just pick like 2 games and on one platform, and just you're going to save yourself a lot of headaches by doing that.
Yep. Make sure you're excited to play it, and then just lock in, because you're going to get distracted so easily. That's the benefit of going to list. Kyle, was Thailand? Review it on a Game Informer review scale, because every time you've talked about it, you're like, it's nice to go on vacation. I went to Thailand, I guess.
I don't know. It's like it's just me and my wife, so I guess it's weird to call it a family thing. But it was like it was like a romantic trip for my wife and I. I don't want to like review the country based on this. Like,
review romance with your wife, you coward. Scale
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10, baby.
Wow.
No, Thailand was very cool. We did a lot of great stuff. I got to feed an elephant. I went to this awesome elephant sanctuary where they like take great care of these elephants and just like let them roam freely in this big facility. And each elephant has like its own security guard that sort of keeps watch over them, and you just get a tour of it. And then I went to this place called Carnival Magic, which I encourage you to Google. It's just this like crazy, incredible thing, and they had this parade that takes place on like the largest stage in the world or something. I wasn't allowed to bring my cell phone in to take pictures of it, but if you can imagine looking at a stage that's like the size of 2 football fields. And then they had this crazy parade with these floats that were like multiple stories tall. It was incredible. It was crazy.
And they don't want anybody sharing that online or on Instagram or anything?
No, you had to lock up your phone in a locker before they would let you into this place.
Well, they did tell some really boundary pushing jokes at the same time.
I mean, I didn't understand it because I don't speak the language, it seemed very offensive. A lot of groans coming from the audience.
I get it.
But no, it was a fantastic trip, and I played my game of choice ended up being Vice City on Switch. I've never beaten that game, so I was like, I kind of want to finish Vice City. I've never finished Vice City, so I played a lot of Vice City, hanging out in the hotel and stuff like that.
I feel like the way to go, and this is obviously different for us than kind of your average non-games industry person, but it's like, it should be a game that did not release that year that you were not playing because you want to talk about it. You know, it's like, it should just be, make it as fun as possible. And honestly, my stance is like, no, don't bring a video game console and look at the DVDs that they have in the rental house you're staying at and watch those. Don't do streaming, don't log into Netflix, kind of limit your options in a fun vacation-y way.
I'm so with you. We always do the DVDs in the Airbnb, and if we know there's not going to be them, we hit the library on our way there and get whatever DVDs they have.
Oh,
in the
interesting.
Library.
That's good.
But it is my one chance to see what it is like to not play video games all the time, and I always want to take advantage of that. What if I read books? Let's take a vacation and experience what that me would be like.
I read so much from Christmas to New Year's was essentially my break, and I wasn't doing any work, and I was like, I think I've turned over a new leaf, and I'm just gonna read for 2 hours a day now. And I started working again, and I was like, oh yeah, this is why I don't do that, because having a job sucks and is hard.
Even though I love this vacation, it's been my favorite of my life, I kind of regret playing Bayonetta Origins because it did feel a little bit like work. It felt like, all right, well, I got to mop this up because I promised everybody in the podcast I would. I enjoyed it, but it was that's why I do think it's liberating to choose something that there's no chance you would have any connection to work. And this is the ultimate gross move, I guess. But I brought a couple books, and I started rereading The Lost World, the Michael Clayton book, because it's been years since I've read it, and I got 50 pages in. I'm like, this feels like a deepest dive. I should save this. I should save it for a deepest dive. I thought it was really fun. So just work is just constantly invading it. But the DVD thing and the rental made me think of is the best because it was New Year's. And it's well, we have the kids, so we're not going to go out to bars. But also every bar here was closed on New Year's, which really was a strange move. I tried walking to one at 7 just to see what it'd be like, and closed. I was just confused. But I found in their closet they had an old karaoke machine. And so it was a karaoke machine that runs on data CDs. And so it was the best because they had a whole stack of CDs and it was all just all right, here's a bunch of music in Spanish. Don't know it. But they had a CD and a half in English. And so it was just fun to all right, let's just get drunk in the living room, kids asleep. And now let's just sing all of these songs that we never would have chosen for karaoke. But now we got to really lean into some Garth Brooks. And it turns out it's really fun to sing Garth Brooks on New Year's from an old karaoke machine where you're squinting at the screen because it's this terrible LED readout and whatnot. It's great.
Did you add anything to your list? Is Rodeo on there now?
No, you know what? It's sad, and they should have written it down. But it's I was thinking, well, what song was the most fun? And it was Queen's Crazy Little Thing Called Love.
Oh, okay.
And I feel when it comes to karaoke, there's I don't know, 4 or 5 songs you'll go to for Queen before that. But then you realize Queen, they're so good that even the number 6 song is still a blast to sing at karaoke, and you can do a little Elvis twinge on it. It's great. Let's see. Sarah, are you going to be playing games in Mexico?
No, I always bring a Switch or something, and then I just don't end up playing it. There's too much doing stuff and talking to people that I never find time to just isolate myself on these vacations. Yeah. But if I'm vacationing at home, a staycation, then I do play a lot of video games.
That's the way to go. Ben Shively wrote in. They say, I just beat Red Dead Redemption 2 a few days ago, and it's one of the best games I've played in my life. You hearing this, Jeffem? Only we could ping Jeffem in real life. If Red Dead 2 came out in 2023, where would it have ended up on people's Game of the Year lists? It's a good hypothetical. Number 1, Jacob?
No, but near probably 3 for me.
Yeah, mine would be 2 above Alan Wake, probably.
Yeah, 2 for me as well.
Interesting.
I think 2 as well.
2 for me. Yeah. It'd be right below Zelda, but above Hi-Fi Rush. So I think number 2 for me, yeah.
Wait, I still, when people say I think this is the most beautiful game ever made, I still am it's Red Dead 2. It's going to be Red Dead 2 for a while here.
I have been thinking about that so much because not to plug my podcast, but it's like play Metal Gear Solid 1, playing Metal Gear Solid 2 for Something Rotten. The graphical leap in the 3 years between those games, which it is a console generation, but it is like it is a quantum leap. And then you think about the fact that Red Dead Redemption came out 5 years ago and still looks as good or better than like anything. It's sad. You know, I want things to move as fast as they did. But also it's probably good that like we shouldn't keep pushing because the push for graphics is destroying people's lives.
Sure. But it's not even just like fidelity. It's like the attention to detail and style really behind the like weather effects and the sun rising, feeling chilly. Like the fact that they
crunching in the snow with your horse, they're crunch, crunch, crunch up a mountain.
Yeah, that's the stuff that still feels.
The skybox is the term for just like the video game. Like I remember just when Red Dead 2 came out, everyone just being like, "My God, these skyboxes are unmatched. Like this is it. We've reached the peak. It's sort of done."
Those volumetric clouds, like the clouds in Red Dead 2, and you can't fly. There are no airplanes in the game. But like when people use
gliders,
balloons.
You can. There's a hot air balloon, but it's like when people go up and you see that those clouds are like real. It's like, why? Yeah. What's even the point of this? But they look so good.
So are you going back on your claim that the Tears of the Kingdom is the best fucking game ever made? Then, Jacob?
I think they are like, it's almost for exactly the same reason that I think of those two as so beautiful.
Yeah, I played like 600 plus hours of Red Dead Online easily in my life, and at no point did I stopping to appreciate vistas. Like near the end of my time, I was still doing that all the time, just at the top of a hill, sitting and soaking it in.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that we're all raving about it. It's still number 2, but I guess that's just 2023. You can't top it. Like there's so many great games that tough to climb to the top. Mm-hmm. Spencer Jensen has a nice follow-up for Jacob saying, "Hey, all-knowing MinnMax. Sure. Is there a situation you could describe Fox died to a human that doesn't play games without embarrassing yourself or sounding too nerdy?" Jacob, as somebody who just finished Metal Gear Solid 1, could you describe that to a stranger on the bus and not sound too nerdy?
Okay, well, a stranger?
Yeah.
No.
Challenge.
I mean, I think in our conspiracy-minded current reality, the idea of a targeted virus is not that outside what people... like, here's the thing. You would sound like QAnon, but, like, there are a lot of people who kind of sound like QAnon, and so it's like, is Foxdie that different than, like, 5G virus? You know, no.
Kojima ahead of the curve once again.
Right.
It's been so long since I finished Metal Gear Solid 1. Probably 2015 is the last time I played it, so maybe not an impossible amount of time. But is the ending still, spoilers for Metal Gear Solid 1, still as cool as I remember? Because isn't it Liquid saying Fox and then Snake goes die back to him and then he dies?
It's
pretty sweet.
I don't know if I describe it as super cool, that specific part.
What are you talking about?
And obviously it was surpassed earlier when Liquid says super baby method. Which is the funniest 3 words.
I do not remember. What was that in regard to?
I don't know. Well, I think it's how they made the different Solid and Liquid and Solidus were all made using the super baby method where they like...
Let me take it.
Okay, yeah,
please,
go ahead.
Yeah, they create, there were 8 original Offspring clones of Big Boss, and they killed off all of them but 2. So they say 2 is Solid and Liquid, and I think that's the super baby method.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is this they renamed it to Les Enfants Terribles, right? To have something cooler later, or is this those are two different things?
They are.
That's the overall project.
Let's get into it.
And it was
Sarah, start taking notes.
The super baby method thing came up, and Liquid says like, we killed all our siblings to exist. And my partner was sitting next to me on the couch and was like, is this game pro-life? Like, because it's like, no, they were fetuses. It was very funny.
I remember at some point, I think it was like a Reddit post, but just thinking about the ending of that game and like how you're running down the tunnel or, driving down the tunnel as Liquid's attacking all that stuff. Where it's like, what is Solid Snake doing sneaking into this military base that's so well guarded. Meanwhile, there's just like a tunnel directly from the outside to the heart of Metal Gear, and he does not take it. It's a terrible recon, I think. So we can check out the Something Rotten podcast for your full hot takes on Metal Gear Solid.
They are hot. And we've got a lot of good guests, including coming up one Ben Hansen.
Yeah, that's the plan. Maybe I want to attack you on your own show about it, but it doesn't feel like a rotten game. When I'm thinking about your podcast and kind of, it feels like the biggest stretch so far. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I think that it is politically an extremely rotten game. Like in Metal Gear Solid 1, it is just like everyone's being lied to. They're sending these soldiers out to die with complete lack of knowledge about what they're doing. All of the terrorists on Shadow Moses are just trying to not die by a virus that's been created to kill them. And then is about our entire world being taken over by misinformation. It's not, it's not like you cut a guy's leg off and it's super gross the way that other Something Rotten games are, but it's rotten.
Okay. All right. Chan at the Backstage Pass here, they say, the super baby method is just killing 6 babies. Yep, that's Metal Gear Solid super baby method. You got it.
It sounds like a speedrun strat. The super baby method.
It's the name of the difficulty level Jacob selected.
Yeah, that's my difficulty level. Super baby mode.
Tokyo Game Life writes in to say, Ben, have you ever played Mystic Warriors? It's Konami's spiritual successor to Sunset Riders, and it was just released for the first time ever on home consoles a few weeks ago, thanks to Hamster's Arcade Archive series. No one leave. Please don't turn in for your podcast. Yes, I love Mystic Warriors. It is a weird spiritual successor to one of my favorite arcade games of all time, Sunset Riders, except they're wild samurai. And every time you put in a quarter, it goes, ninja. It's just a very absurd game, but it's... Look, if you thought the Fox Die exchange at the end of MGS was cool, you will think Mystic Warriors is the coolest thing you've ever played in your life. And it is very fun because you select which Mystic Warrior you're going to play as. And if you're playing with a bunch of friends, you select it as well. And you have 5 people to choose from. And then whoever isn't chosen, it randomizes. And the evil corporation called Skull comes and kidnaps one character you didn't choose. And then that's like the MacGuffin the rest of the game is like, we have to save Brad, or they just fill in the audio gap for whatever character is randomized. It's very cool. And Tokyo Game Life, if you like that, you should check out Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa, which is an old Saturday morning cartoon show that Konami also turned into a very similar game to Sunset Riders, and it's quite good. Graham Jones writes in. They say, hey, Maxers, with the 210s discussion, it was brought up that Spider-Man as a franchise will be remembered as a series and not individual games. I feel that this situation is similar to the Arkham series, which had me thinking, what do you think is the defining game of the Arkham series? Classic question.
I do think of those 3, discounting Origins maybe, I think of them pretty individually.
I agree. I think they're super different from each other.
Yeah.
City and Night, I mean,
I guess I think of City as the one that leaves the biggest impact as an outsider, as a relative outsider, even though I have been going back to Arkham Knight recently, and damn, I'm having a great time with that game.
That game is so good.
Great Steam Deck game.
I guess it's Suicide Squad, but there's something in the air where everyone is going back and playing the Arkham games. I don't know why. I was playing City and Night recently, and I was talking to Wes over at Game Informer, and he's like, yeah, I picked Night back up recently. Behind me, of course.
Well, with Prince of Persia coming out now, people are going to be playing that Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate, their take on the Batman Metroidvania that it must be good. I feel like we all need to go back just to double check it again.
Everyone who played it said it was not very good. I don't know what to tell you.
I just think we need to just quadruple check to make sure that's not the best game ever.
I actually feel similarly. I remember booting it up on Vita, and I was like, this has to be worthwhile, right? Yeah. Come on, right? I love Night. Spider-Man is what made me actually go back to Night because as much as I really like Spider-Man a lot, I'm like, but this doesn't come close to these Batman games, right? And my sort of result for me after playing a couple of hours of Night is yes, that's absolutely the case. Night is just, I love that game. I know people kind of are harsh on it because they didn't like the Batmobile, but I think that's like the standout one. Like that's the one to go back to. I understand if the Batmobile didn't do it for you. I quite like the Batmobile, but like just the mood of that game is just incredible, and it looks so good, and like the way you can like sort of take out groups of enemies, both in like just running in there and fist fighting, and also stealthily sneaking around. It's just so satisfying. I adore that game. It's so good.
Yeah, I feel like I have similar takeaways of like. All I've heard is, yeah, it's annoying how much you have to do in the car in that game. And then I'm playing it. I'm like, but before I'm playing it, I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. I don't want to be in a car in a Batman game. Come on. Right. I'm too good for that. And then I play it. It's like, oh, this is actually really fun to be in this car.
And you can launch yourself out of the car and you go like a mile into the air.
Yeah. And when you summon the car, you're standing in the street and you summon it and it's like, it comes up to you and it handbrake drifts into you and you slide into it.
Yeah.
And that all feels so amazing as it like power slides and then takes off as you hit the boost.
It just launches enemies off into the side of buildings.
Yeah. And the like assisted takedowns, when it's nearby, you can do special takedowns where you kick somebody up into the air and the Batmobile shoots them. And I've really been struck by like, damn, this has so much style. This has such a specific mood and atmosphere. Everything being so rain slick and just so gritty and dark in a way that's not like automatic Batman, the way other DC properties have, or, you know, projects have tried to make Batman that way. This is like so authentically, artistically driven in a way that's so noticeable, and it makes me really miss. Like, I haven't seen it in a superhero thing in a while, I don't think. It's so, so cool.
I do agree with Leo that the answer is Arkham City. For like that's the one, even though I don't think it's like my favorite. It's like that's the defining game of that franchise, I think.
I mean, I guess so if you're talking about the overall franchise, but it's just that thing of Arkham Asylum hit so hard. There's always the people that'll prefer the non-open world, which Kyle, you prefer Asylum, right?
Yeah, I mean, over the years, I might put Night number one, but like City is probably my least favorite of the Rocksteady ones, despite really adoring it. I that's not to say I don't like City, but it's like if I'm ranking them, I might be Night, Asylum, City these days.
Yeah, I'd probably go City, Asylum, Night, Origins. Did you see that Suicide Squad has Riddler trophies in it?
I did, yeah. I'm curious how that's going to work. I'm trying to remain optimistic for Suicide Squad, even though it seems like a very wave-based shooter, which is not my jam. But
the screenshots of the UI have been alarming. Yeah. I would describe.
Yeah, it is. Can anybody think of a worse PR rollout than Suicide Squad? I feel like it's been a long time cooking, and it's just been years of everybody being like, "No, thank you," but it just keeps slowly like, "No, it's gonna happen." You guys.
It's like I have been thinking about like Rocksteady PR of just like tearing their hair out, because it is this thing where it's like they gave themselves like a 6-year runway, and like 3 years into it, everyone started being like, we don't want this, but they can't stop, and it's a nightmare scenario.
Yep, and there's been development difficulties. I mean, the heads of the studio left, and so I'm sure that's slowed down the game a little bit more. So it's like they can't fundamentally change what it is. It is going to be this big open area living game with a UI explosion and Stats-a-Palooza, Gotham Knights times 1,000. It is a tough spot to be in, but it's just wild to see, outlets like IGN, they had their preview called on YouTube. We played Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and did not like it. And that is rare. I feel like you see a big outlet do a preview and just be like, no. And it's a very thorough YouTube video, and it's fair based on this preview experience. But it's just interesting how like everything in the game, just the reaction is like you can't help but perceive it in the most negative light. Of just like, well, I like those Arkham games, and this is not that, and there's no getting around that. Now everything you're showing me is just annoying, even if it would be fine in theory in some other game. Just when you have that comparison in your head, this just looks like trash. Even though it seems like there were some leaks from people playing the beta, and people were saying like, I actually kind of like it. It's more fun than I thought it would be. But now it seems like the latest round of previews is everybody saying, actually, no, don't believe the people actually playing it. The press playing it thinks it sucks.
I will say the optimism from IGN included has been to the sort of the narrative and the characters and things like that. Like they had nice things to say about that element of the game, which I'm interested in that part of it for sure. I like Rocksteady stories. All the Batman stories are super engaging and fun, and I want to see them to their conclusion. And that's the thing that I'm most interested in with Suicide Squad. So we'll see.
But it is that kind of unfair judgment of opportunity cost of like, you just can't help thinking like, what have we lost for this to exist? Which I know is not how games are made. And it's like, it's not fair to judge this game by like the games that it has killed. But like, it's like, this took so long to make. And like, even if there were just like 2 non-living game Rocksteady games in that time, even one, you know, it's like it's just like what have they not been able to make because they've been making this is always the living living game thing. And it's like, you know, Naughty Dog, call it great PR or whatever, but when they were like, we're not going to make The Last of Us multiplayer because it would mean we would never be able to make anything else, it's like, you're right, I don't want you to do that.
Yeah, if that's the only version of it that you're allowed to make, is the version where it's your
you can just make the PS3 multiplayer again because that's not allowed.
Right.
God forbid. Yeah. Leo, is there a universe based on how much? If I'm remembering correctly, you enjoyed Marvel's Avengers. Like, is there a universe where you get into Suicide Squad just for like your dumb, fun, open world stuff?
There's a universe for sure. Brian Shea over at Game Informer was pretty hot on it, and he said shouted out some specific loot that was like, you know, this gun does more critical hits if you shoot somebody in the legs. Forget what it's called, but it's something about that. And like the idea, you know, loot games with boring loot, dead on arrival. Loot games with interesting loot, you can win me over a little bit. And if it's like consistently getting weird little perks that genuinely change how you're going through it and make that feel really specific, that's got a good chance of getting me. Yeah.
All right, there we go. Hey, that's something.
What's the question?
February 2nd. We'll all find out about it. Oh, it was Graham Jones talking about the Arkham games.
Okay. You know, I didn't get into Arkham Knight because of Suicide Squad looming, but I did get into it because somebody in the Discord, in the MinnMax Discord, was talking about it, and that reminded me. And I'm sure that's why they were going back to it. So in a roundabout way. But I wasn't thinking about Suicide Squad at all until this week.
It's funny. You're also playing Mad Max on the Steam Deck. Is the Steam Deck just like your 2015 nostalgia machine? Like, there's no way you're not playing Metal Gear Solid 5 next. It's got to be happening. Right?
Yeah, totally. That is also, I was looking for another like 360 era type game because Mad Max hits so hard. It's so perfect to have. I was like, maybe this will just be a podcast game the way Mad Max is. I've listened to Mad Max for 10 minutes total of playtime of my 40 hours these past couple weeks. But Arkham Knight, yeah, I'm totally plugged in. The story and everything's great.
Cool.
Sweet. Zane Thorpe writes in, it says, to Sarah, dearest Sarah Podzarski, do you like your last name, Sarah?
I mean, it could be worse. It could be better,
it's really
yes.
Cool.
But it could be worse.
And we've talked about this 1,000 times, I'm sure, but like when you got into podcasting, did you think like this is a cool, happy coincidence? It's a cool boost.
That I had that cool name?
Yes.
I mean, it's nice because like no one can really steal your identity, right? Like it's really hard. There's not a lot of Podzorskis in the world, so good luck with that.
Yeah.
Try it.
Anyways, so Zane, we dare everyone watching and listening.
Yeah. Try it. I dare you.
Zane says to Sarah, what is your main in Final Fantasy XIV, and are you planning on playing Viper or Pictomancer, the new classes? Those are classes that were revealed for Dawntrail?
Yeah. Primarily I prefer range DPS. I play Dancer, which I think is a really fun class. You sort of like partner with another DPS, and a lot of your moves are buffs, and a lot of them are sort of like team-based buffs based on like you basically play DDR to like set off your certain moves. That's cool. But I also like to play healer. I really like Astrologian, where you like pull tarot cards and you heal. It used to be that you would heal based on the cards you pulled, but that was a little too RNG, so they changed it. And that's a lot of fun. But yeah, I think I'm going to try Pictomancer because it's just another range DPS. It's going to suck when it comes out, though, because everyone's going to be playing it through the content. So, like, every single dungeon you go into, it'll be, like, a Viper and a Pictomancer, or, like, 2 Pictomancers, or, like, 2 Vipers. And it's always kind of a pain when you start content, because, like, everyone's doing the same exact... They're all picking up the new classes. But, yeah, Pictomancer looks a lot of fun. It's nice to have another range DPS, because I don't like the melee DPS at all. I'm too much of a baby.
What's the community? A super baby?
A super baby mode.
Thank you. What's the community's read on Dawntrail right now? Are they still feeling good about it? Is 14 community happy or?
I think they're happy because we're also getting like a big graphical update with Dawn Trail, which is sort of like another big push, is that things are starting to look a lot nicer as they're being dragged into a more modern era. As Yoshi P says, please update your PCs. He is quite literally begging you to update your PCs. 'Cause I think it can play on some pretty old stuff. He's like, please update. But I don't know, they keep kind of selling it as like the beach episode because Endwalker was like pretty heavy and pretty emotional. So we're going to a whole new continent, which is basically just the Americas. Like they were like, oh, here's this new continent. It's the Americas. So you have sort of South America. And then it goes into this really weird, like Wild West zone, like old American West vibes.
Ooh.
And then they just released a new area, which looks like a cyberpunk city, which I assume is supposed to be North America. And it's called like Solution 9, and it's like all LEDs. There's like a tower that looks like a graphics card, looks like a GPU with a bunch of fans on it. It looks insane. They released a new race too. You can now be a female Hrothgar, where originally you can only be a male Hrothgar. So I guess congratulations, everyone who wanted to be a lion. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still like on the fence overall for it, since it is like a brand new story. There will be no like carryover from like the past expansions. So like I don't know. I'm interested to see what they do with it.
Why do they put Bradley Cooper in all those thumbnails on YouTube?
Do you mean the brown-haired guy?
He looks like Bradley Cooper. He's everywhere.
Okay, but like for the longest time when I started playing Final Fantasy XIV, for those who don't know, there's always like a brown-haired man with a sword and a shield in all the cutscenes or in all of the trailers. And I didn't know who he was, and I was like, when is he going to appear in the game? And then someone looked at me and they were like, Sarah, that's the Warrior of Light. And I'm like, I'm the Warrior of Light. What do you mean he's the Warrior of Light? And he's like, he's the player stand-in. They found the most generic looking white man off the street, gave him armor, and they were like, you're a stand-in for the player now. So that's why he's in a bunch of trailers and screenshots, even though like he's like not really in the game.
But they've tested it, and a Bradley Cooper lookalike is the most generic looking guy. All right, that's it.
He was there on the original Final Fantasy XIV too before they nuked it, so he was always there.
Baldur's Gate also, Larian was like, this is the median player character, and it's just like a white human guy with brown hair.
Yes.
No.
Literally looks like a guy off the street.
Well, it's like the Shepherd and Mass Effect approach, right? They had the two baseline shepherds, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is. Like, it's easier for marketing. You could have some key art and have somebody in it, or else it's just kind of a mess. Yeah. I get why they do it. Sebastian Apollinario writes in. They say, I've seen many GIFs of Leo dancing lately.
You want a new one?
Yeah. Oh, this guy's crazy. I assume this is in the Discord. And I gotta say, as we all know now, he has some good moves.
He just
confirmed
that.
Yeah.
I assume Sebastian is coming from a personal place. They say, Leo, do you think you would be a salsa dancer if you were born in Latin America?
Wow. I like to think so.
Yeah.
I do love dancing.
Do you really?
Yeah, just around the house and whatnot. It's a fun, easy way to get my body moving.
I'm not talking about going to some sicko club with way too loud music and stuff, but if there's like a dance party event or something, like, you know, in the cities, they have a lot of like 90s dance night and stuff. Like, do you go to those types of things? Would you enjoy your time there?
I never have. I maybe would, maybe at a different point in my life. Certainly at weddings, I love getting down.
Yeah.
I love hitting it. And there was a time in my life where I was too embarrassed to do that. And I'm not in that time in my life anymore. So maybe we're on that trajectory towards full-on dance class. Dance class.
Dancing on a rooftop, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of which, Owen McCarter writes in to say, hey, gang, I have a new Better Quest goal / New Year's resolution. I got a handheld planner, and for every single day of the year, I'm writing a short sentence about something that happened that day. Maybe I spent time with a friend or made a good meal. Could be anything, but I'm hoping it helps with making each day mean something. My only caveat is if I write something negative, like a tough work day, I have to add something positive or a gratitude statement as well. Very smart. Do you all have any new Better Quest goals? Kind of New Year's resolutions, but has anybody set a goal for themselves at the start of 2024?
Rot mode.
Is that a goal? Lower expectations.
Rock Girl Summer, Rock Girl Fall, Rock Girl Winter. I'm not doing anything. That's not true. I have started going to the gym, but
really,
yeah, I got to that point where I realized I was sitting at my desk for like 12 hours a day, And it's like, I was like, this is not good. Like, this is really like not great. So I got a personal trainer and we work out every week for like an hour. I'm going like, when I choose to do something, you guys, I'm all in. So me and my trainer lift iron at the gym.
Sarah Podzorski actually been cast as Abby in The Last of Us 2 adaptation?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I haven't revealed it yet.
It's kind of false advertising, fake ass gamer girl on Twitch being like, it's rot mode, let's all sink at our couches. And secretly you're training for an hour every week with a personal trainer? That's ridiculous.
And then I go rot mode.
Impressive.
I can go rot mode, and now that I've worked out, it's like permission to rot granted from the gym.
Rot mode and Rottweiler mode are Sarah's only two modes.
Those are my two modes.
I similarly want to like move my body more. I want to have like more endurance for, cardio, things like that. Like I don't like having a target weight or anything. I don't really care about that. I'm happy with how I look and I'm with the love of my life, so what do I give a shit? But I do wish I could do things for longer sometimes.
I'm with you.
And I want to be able to fight when I have to, which will happen any minute.
Well, when Sarah gets all hopped up on testosterone and busts through her window and attacks you, I think that's
right.
Kyle,
financial goals for me, just more like specific budgeting of like how much we can spend per week and stuff like that, and trying to pay down debt more, like focus on that more. That's sort of our early 2024 directive that we put into effect.
Nice. Henry Chandler writes in, they say, I played the new WarioWare over the weekend. It's a game that requires you to wear the Joy-Con straps. So we've lamented it quite a bit. Oh, that should have gotten
one of us has lamented it extensively.
It drags the game down. Do you think anyone at Nintendo has play tested trying to get a glass of water while wearing the Joy-Cons with straps? Because I can't recommend it.
I don't know.
That does sound hilarious.
Something that I've done is while wearing a VR helmet and the wrist straps, which I do wear, I try to pick up a water bottle and drink while still having the VR thing on, and you're kind of like bonking it against the headset.
Yeah,
but you can do it if you're strong enough.
When Hansen says Game Informer, an angel gets a Wii, writes in. They say, hey, MinnMax, I hope everyone had a great break. It seems like loading screen tips are getting rarer these days. So to celebrate the ones still around, I created a game for you called Get a Load of This. Hey. Guess the game based on the loading screen tips. I tried to organize tips on each game from hardest to easiest. Good luck. Okay, so these are tips from the loading screen. Just shout out when you think you know what it is.
Great idea.
When the madness gauge is full. Kyle.
Darkest Dungeon?
No, don't be an idiot. You will go mad and lose a great deal of both HP.
Oh, wait. I actually know what this is.
Bloodborne?
Nope. And FP.
Can I go again?
Sure.
Don't Starve?
No.
Really?
Only Elden Ring.
There we go. I think Don't Starve has a madness gauge, though, just to be
Look,
clear.
you're right in a lot of ways, Kyle. If this is a different one, then if a monster is hiding behind a shield, you can bat the shield away by hitting it with a heavy sword.
Oh, is that all Melee video games? Just all of them?
Look at you. Yeah, this game is exactly like every other game out there, and there's nothing special about it.
I'm waiting for the tip that references the Dwemer ruins, so I could just be like, Skyrim! That's the only loading screen tips I think I've even read.
Oh, funny. Oh, you're working backwards? Yeah.
Is that keep an open mind here. Dungeon or something?
Nope. Dry grass catches fire especially easily. And
Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Don't be a fool. It's Tears of the Kingdom, you guys. It's completely different.
Oh, what's the difference?
Okay. All right.
Significant. To follow up on that question.
Here we go. From the loading screen for this game. You can't go home.
Go home.
Rumors.
Skyrim. Just begging for one that should just be Skyrim. Then I'm not going to get it.
Skyrim, you can't go home.
Please.
Rumors claim that Conrad is still alive and hiding in Dubai.
Spec Ops: The Line.
Spec Ops: The Line. There we go.
You can't go home with a loading tip?
Oh yeah, do you know
awesome.
about the Spec Ops loading screens? They like it's a
like,
thing about the game is that they get like weirder throughout, where it's like it starts with like use a grenade, and then they end it's like the U.S. military does not condone killing unarmed combatants, but this is a video game, so you shouldn't care, right? Like is a loading screen tip. It's
awesome.
Cool.
That is a game that's like you have. I think we all have those games that like we refuse to take off our backlog, if that makes sense. Like I have that game downloaded on my Steam Deck. Like I have been meaning. I've never played it, and I've truly been meaning to get to it for like a decade at this point. And it's like, if I'm being honest myself, I probably never will. But like I said, one of the first things I downloaded on my Steam Deck was like, well, let me put this on here so I can get around to it. And it's like that's one that will never leave my backlog.
Let's play multiplayer.
Yeah, what everyone talks about.
It is. I mean, Kyle, zero promises. It is on the list of deepest dives. Where it's one of those like it's such an interesting game. I feel like
people
hasn't that already been said about it?
Yeah, I heard about it today.
That's the thing is I feel like it's kind of people get it. People get why that game's a special weird thing. I don't know if we'd be saying anything new about it, which is why I kind of paused on that.
I'm sorry, Ben. Something Rotten is the podcast for Spec Ops: The Line.
It really is. But I think it is interesting that I'm sure more people than ever have heard legend of that game and not played it. It's like further away from it being realistic that anyone's played it. If they're just learning about it, it could be an interesting choice for that reason.
It was last touch on this game, but like it was one of the first previews I did for Game Informer. Like it is one of the first games where I got to play like a build early and write about it and talk to folks. But I never went and like played the full game. Yeah.
Oh, and you told them it should be about how war is bad.
Yes, it was me.
Yeah. See this? Flip it. Michael Berry writes in, how do people that compete in the luge actually get their start? Is there a typical path one takes to ride in a sled on a competitive level? I think about this all the time. Yeah, it's like if I wanted to get into bobsledding, what's step one?
Is this Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games? This is the tip screen?
Yeah, I know. No Skyrim? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no Skyrim. Sorry, no Skyrim. But that is a great question. I don't know how you get started. I guess
that was like 2 rounds.
I think it's nepotism.
What's that, Kyle?
Did we just did 2 rounds of the loading screen game? Did we do more?
There were 3 in there.
Oh, okay.
You want to do more?
That's a great game.
I like the quizzes.
Okay, one
more.
But
I think this is a good question about bobsledding because I am curious too.
There's no good answer. All right, one more loading screen game.
It's nepotism.
I mean, that is a good answer.
Yeah. So just if your parents have a bobsled course in your backyard?
Well, it's like your parents probably did it. They're probably just like, hey, we're looking for someone fit, but like, like the other, cross-country skiing is full, but you could probably just lay on this sled for a little bit.
Anyone who grew up around bobsledding.
I hate to be a nerd about this, but on Reddit, there is an Ask Reddit, how do you get into it? And the top answer is, I am a current member of the U.S. Bobsled and Skeleton Federation, so I can give you a bit of insight. Skeleton is another sport, I think.
Okay, no further questions.
Yeah,
there's no like sled. You just kind of lay on the skates.
But they say they basically recruit from other athletes. Like the federation will go up to be like, hey, you are a former track and field star. Have you considered bobsledding? Yeah,
it's like you're not good enough to be the best in track and field, but you're just good enough to lay in a sled.
That's good. Also, my brain's just...
They probably attend sleep studies and see who's the best at laying down.
I like how you're minimizing what is undoubtedly an incredibly difficult.
Let's be honest, it's kind of a throwaway sport. No one's like training their entire lives to lay on a bobsled. It's no figure skating.
I train 8 hours a night.
My skeleton's there 24 hours a day.
That's true.
All right, here we go. Back to loading screens for one. Alter the brightness setting to make the game darker or brighter. Do not look directly at the bugs.
Elabits. On week.
Can we go one podcast without you mentioning
Amnesia: The Dark Descent?
No, but warmer. Craft torches to light up dark areas. Monsters lurk in the darkness. Minecraft. There we go, baby.
I had no idea that had loading
look
screen
at the bugs?
Don't look at the bugs, I guess.
What
I don't know.
Bugs in Minecraft?
I don't know.
You've been playing it well and not looking at them.
Spiral in Your Eyes writes in. They say, has Sarah ever talked about her Japanese learning experience on the show? I'm in Japan learning Japanese now, and it's a lot of fun. Just wondering how she decided to learn it, what methods she used, and any advice she has.
I took it in college for 4 years, and then I lived in Japan for 2 years. What about college?
I said kata college, but you're smarter than I am. Keep going.
I don't know what that is.
It's, I guess, a joke.
It's supposed to be a katakana joke?
Kata college?
Wow,
Sarah,
that's a really good joke.
You're smarter than us. Keep rolling. Keep rolling.
But I think the thing that like people don't realize about learning a language is it's very similar to like working out, where you don't just kind of hit a point where like you're done. You're like, yeah, I learned it. I'm done. If you don't use it, it will go away and it will deteriorate back to like a base level that you've always been at. So I try to always sort of like read things in Japanese, listen to things in Japanese, just to make sure that I don't deteriorate past a certain point. So it's like you kind of constantly have to be studying.
If a video game has Japanese dub, is that your default? Like you play it in Japanese always?
I do sometimes play the Japanese. Like I played Zelda in Japanese dub, just because. That's cool. I don't know,
also,
and because you also
probably the voice acting is way better. No offense to Zobel.
It's a little jarring, you know, switching from like I've been playing Yakuza Like a Dragon and I was listening to the Japanese, and then people were like, "Oh, try the English. It's it's so good." And I tried the English, and it was just like nails on a chalkboard. Like the English is good. The English is good, but it's like the Japanese just sounds so much more natural to me. It just like flows so much better to me, and Japanese is like a very interesting language when it comes to learning it. It has very much like changed my perspective. It's almost like a cultural thing. Like understanding Japanese the language goes in hand with understanding the Japanese culture, How
so?
Japanese has this really interesting thing where like you can tell a speaker based on how they say things, right? So like if our names weren't attached in this podcast and like you didn't hear our voices, you couldn't tell that I was a woman, you'd be able to tell that I was a woman between like the ages of like 25 and 35. You can tell people's like they're like if they're in like what kind of class they're in, what their jobs might be, just on the way that they speak.
Like they use the word like Riz and stuff like that.
Well, it's like there's just like they say things just like differently. They'll like pronounce words differently. It's like an accent, but it's like class based, gender based, personality based.
And so if you get like a high paying job in Japan, you would change the way you speak and have a different name assigned to you. Is that are you just saying it just affects your language in such a specific way? But there's something in Japanese, isn't there something like everybody has like there's a certain role that you fit into, right? There's a word for it? Well,
yeah, but it's sort of like when you translate a game from Japanese to English, you lose that additional sort of flavor that would normally be coming from the text. You cannot one-to-one translate. People do their best, but it's like you do lose a little bit. A little bit gets lost of like understanding certain characters. So that's just kind of like the greatest benefit of learning Japanese is it's like, well, if you really, really care and you want to know more about like the culture and stuff, because like even when I was learning Japanese, it's like I think differently in Japanese than I do in English too. So you kind of have to literally shift your mindset when you learn a language like Japanese too, because it's culturally so different. So you kind of have to horizontally move yourself mentally as well. Yeah. And so it can be a little jarring to like go back and forth. Cause like, you're like hear people speak Japanese and their voice it'll jump like 20 octaves and they'll get like way more polite.
Interesting.
Is your advice just go to college, or do you have any advice for actually learning it?
I mean, the advice I can give is just like read Japanese books, watch Japanese things without subtitles, speak Japanese with people. Like you just have to do it, and you have to do it constantly, and like treat it like you're working out. Like a little bit every day is gonna go way more than like cramming a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really trying to find something to get my kiddo started on Japanese now. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to find like an in-person class or something she's a 12-year-old. So it's like, I just haven't found anything, but that she's excited to do it. And I'm trying to like embrace that now. So if you have any advice, Sarah, please let me know.
It's tough. I took some classes when I was younger, but the issue is that like, they don't stick very well.
Sure.
Because it's like a week-long summer class. And then you kind of like, you walk out knowing only a little bit. Honestly, the best thing you can do is just like ship her to Japan and be like, okay, have fun. Like, that's like the best thing you could do.
Yeah. And if it's meant to be, she'll find her way back.
All right, this is good advice. I'm going to do this. Thanks, guys.
Pablo Castillo writes in, they say, what YouTube video have you watched in the past week or two with the lowest view count? Share your love of niche topics and creators, please. This is our specialty. You came to the right place, Pablo.
Well, I'm so glad that YouTube has started recommending zero view channels to me on my
page.
I try to click on them as much as possible because I love that random peek into this channel nobody has seen. And my most recent one was a channel update. So get used to this update change. Hollywood Bob, the YouTube channel, is now changing their name to Captain Bong. And that's a 14 view channel update that is 12 minutes so long. Good.
And you watched it peacefully?
I did.
That's awesome. No, it is really cool. Like, I'll see all these Let's Plays, and I'm like, what? There's 14 views on this? Like, I love that it's popping up, and some of them look like they have a great thumbnail. Like, they're ready to go, you know?
Love it. It's very interesting. Yeah, like when they decided to start doing that. I, in contrast, have a channel that I've been subscribed to for years called Horsebot 3000. It's all spelled out except for the 3. So it's Horsebot number 3000, who exclusively makes Jigglypuff Super Smash Bros. Montage videos set to unexpected music. And so their most recent one, which came out just 4 weeks ago, is called The Most Optimal Puff, a Jigglypuff montage set to Annie Up by MOP. And it is like, they are so good at playing Jigglypuff. Essentially, the whole song is just like, it's just like every beat is him resting on someone as Jigglypuff, and the Smash Bros. Ultimate like zoom in on Jigglypuff is the funniest thing in that game because it's like her eyes are like half closed and her mouth is kind of like, and it's just 3 minutes of that unbroken, and I've watched it like 3 times. I get so much joy from it. It has 2,800 views.
Please link.
There's a YouTube channel that I really love, and I've shouted them out before, but they're called Kiwi Talks. And I'm sorry, I forget the guy's name, but it's a developer interview channel, and it's so well done, and they have timestamps for all of their interviews, which I think is a very generous thing to do. But I love it because they found their niche, and they have a lot of interviews from all over the game industry, but specifically focusing on people who worked at Retro, on like the Metroid Prime series or Donkey Kong, and then left. And people who worked at Valve. So it's just like zooming in, like, let's talk to as many people as we can from these studios, clearly just following his own passions, but it's great. And then they also release like super cuts of just like, here's everybody I ever interviewed from Retro talking about every time Miyamoto visited the studio and what they learned from him. Or here's everybody talking about what it's actually like to work with Gabe Newell at Valve. And they're so well done, and the channel only has 6,000 subs. And it's like, I watch it, like, these are so good. These are great interviews. But Kiwi Talks, and that's with a Z at the end there, if you want to check out a bunch of good game developer interviews. Hey, I think that's it. What do y'all like for question of the week?
I'm watching Horsebot 3000 videos.
Okay.
You really need the sound also. Like the
I know, I'm listening. Don't worry. Sound's on. Don't worry.
What was the Arkham question? Like, I don't even remember what the context of the question was, but it like put us.
That was the question. Was what was the Arkham question? The question for the third time, Kyle, was what is the most defining game of the Arkham trilogy?
I quite like that one because it's like weirdly a lot of people are going back to Arkham. Or Leo, I want to ask you, in your case, is this the first time you've played Night proper, or is it like okay?
City, I tried a couple times and didn't finish, so I didn't really bother moving on to Night, but here I am.
Okay. So I maybe it's just me enjoying an excuse to talk Batman, which Sarah really enjoyed too. I could tell. But
what? I'm watching Horsebot 3000.
we can't forget Rick out of that. I like the Red Dead question where that would rank.
Yeah,
I like the Arkham one.
The loading tip game obviously was good.
The vacation one got us talking about some really fun stuff.
Yeah. Sarah, which one made the show better?
He's so good at hitting these down Bs. It's insane. Like, my God, it's always on the beat. And Jigglypuff has this like half moon eye look. Like, she look like she's high. And whenever he hits, anyways,
Yeah.
So
I
is
like
that the least viewed
Red Dead
YouTube
Redemption
video?
2 one. Yeah, whatever.
like the Red Dead one?
Horsepot 3000 should just win. Actually, Jacob should win for introducing us to Horsepot 3000.
Wow. It's a bold take. Okay, do we like YouTube, Red Dead, or Arkham? I kind of lean Arkham because it did make the show better. Like that was that opened up a whole can of worms for discussions.
Arkham.
All right, Graham Jones, congratulations. You won the Grim Fandango vinyl from I Am 8-Bit. And now it's time for something that we prefer to call Get a Load of This. Okay, hey everybody. Get a load of this. Speaking of good YouTube channels, I don't know how it took me so long to find this because it's exactly up my alley. But Michael Arndt, the screenwriter for Little Miss Sunshine and then Toy Story 3, and he was early on for Star Wars Episode 7 before that whole thing got reshuffled and whatnot. He made a 2-hour-long YouTube video that's just called Toy Story 3, Mistakes Made, Lessons Learned. And it's just him walking through that entire the movie's screenwriting process and how many frustrating dead ends they hit. And it's just like as granular as you could ever get from somebody who was in the room about everything they learned and the storytelling lessons from beating their head against a wall for like 4 years trying to write Toy Story 3. It is excellent. And there's a link below. There's a ton of other great screenwriting stuff on that channel if you want to check it out. Who wants to go next? Jump in.
I've got one here. This was from, I saw it because of @Katsuka on Twitter X, where they shared this 12-minute Dragon Ball musical that was like in China. Ooh. And it's they have a link to like the full performance, and it's just insane. It's just like it goes through the Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z timeline in about 12 minutes, and it's just these incredible choreographed dances with awesome costumes and stuff like that. It's perfect. It's really fantastic. I recommend giving it a watch if you like Dragon Ball or if you like dancing. Either way.
Leo, halfway there, buddy.
Get a load of this. Hollywood Bob is changing his name to Captain Bomb.
Huge moment for the community here. Maybe just get a load of this. My friend Luke works at I Am 8-Bit, and he messaged me an hour and a half ago saying, "Hey, are you around right now?" I said, "Sorry, recording MinnMax show." He said, "Okay, cool, no biggie. Say something nice about me on air, please." So I just want to say Luke is like a really smart, wise person, introspective. Yeah. We have a lot of really rich conversations whenever we talk. I really value the time we spend together. So I just want to shout out Luke for that. So get a load of that.
Do you have a link to Luke we can include in the description? Or?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, thanks. Sarah, you got one?
Yeah, get a load of this. There's a YouTube channel, Horsepot 3000. Incredible, Jiggly. The last video he uploaded 3 years ago, and then the last one came out 4 weeks ago.
Sounds great.
What motivates this person? I am. My real get a load of this was that St. Paul recently voted in an all-women city council. It's made of all women. Yeah. They're primarily women of color, and they're all under the age of 40, which is just like...
That's wild.
That's awesome.
So nice to see.
Yeah. Hey,
take note, from the community. All of Congress. Please, genuinely, I would really appreciate that.
Genuinely, if you're in Congress listening to this, please do take a note.
Please be an under 40 woman. That would make all of our lives so much better.
From the community, get a load of this channel. Can't Blink shared this link. Mikey D on Twitter made a video and shared it, which is the GTA 6 trailer, but remade in Morrowind. Speaking of AMVs and all these rated, it's a good silly thing of it's supposed to be the zoom in on the sexy lady on the rooftop, and it's just like some Morrowind polygonal figure on top of a roof. It's just delightful, and it's keeps the same Tom Petty song and all that stuff. It's a really stupid mashup. Link below for all this stuff, but
get a load of this. Happy to go last because honestly, it's this could probably just be my one for the year. David Ehrlich, film critic, every year does a montage of the best films of that year. So this one, 2 days ago, he released the 25 best films of 2023, and it is a feast of video editing, the likes of which we never get to see like there's like, you know, he does kind of 25 movies in a row, but just the opening montage, which is like 4 or 5 minutes long, is this unbelievably, like, you know, dozens and dozens of movies that came out this year, all like put together in these ways where they feel like they're interacting with each other, and they happen so fast and so naturally. Like there's like a 1 second clip in this where it cuts from it's Jeremy Allen White in the Iron Claw doing some sort of hammer throw, and he's spinning around and throws, and then it just smashes into the scene from Godzilla -1 where a train like lands upright in the middle of a city, and it looks like Jeremy Allen White has just hurled the thing, and it's like there are literally like hundreds of those moments in this. Last year, awesome. It was my favorite edited video of the year. This year it is again. They are so well done, and it's a fundraiser for the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. So if you like the video and you want to be a good person in general, donate to that as well. But like it is like truly my editing inspiration for like the next 365 days.
Nice.
That's sweet. There's a link below for all this stuff. That is it. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching and listening to the first episode of the MinnMax Show from 2024. Let's see. We have, this is exciting. Speaking of charity, from the Give to the Max charity drive, Crater from the community donated to revive our music podcast called Crossfade. And so Matt Helgeson and Jason Daphnis made one more episode covering a prog rock band called Ne Obliviscaris. Sorry for blowing that name. But it rules. The episode rules. It's fun to have that podcast back. Matt Helgeson and Jason Daphnis do such a good job, and they're so enthusiastic about coming back, all for charity, thanks to Crater. And that band is quite good. So you can check out Crossfade in your favorite podcast app to find it. And there's a ton of great music discussions in there. Matt Helgeson is truly, you think we know maybe a thing or two every once in a while about talking about games. Matt Helgeson blows us out of the water every time he talks about music. I feel like an idiot for my chosen medium, you know? But also Party Chat this week, our bonus podcast. It's available for all $5 supporters. Haley and I go over the weighted 210s. So if you took our 210s personal list and reorganized them, how would that actually shake out? We go over all that. And also we sent out a community survey to everybody in the MinnMax community. And we go through all of those results. We had people review every show we did, just trying to get as much feedback as possible. Thanks to everybody who submitted your thoughts in that community survey. I'm very proud and happy that overall for Patreon supporters, scale of 1 to 5 for MinnMax, like how happy are you with MinnMax as an outlet? We scored a 4.8, which I felt very good about. So thanks to everybody for kissing our ass in that survey and coming up with genuinely a ton of very helpful feedback. And we'll have some feedback that we're factoring in for next week. We'll have some announcements happening on Patreon, so you can check that out. All good stuff. And thanks to everybody who's at the Game Championship tier. If you're at the $50 tier, you can choose which game you want to be declared the champion of on this podcast, and in the description for every video and podcast throughout the month. And then every couple months, we round all those up, and we have people vote on Patreon for which game we create bonus content about. And this time, in 5th place, there's only one winner, but I think it's interesting. In 5th place was Slay the Princess, which is cool that game got that much love. Number 4 was Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. That would have been cool to do bonus content about. Number 3, Final Fantasy Tactics. I love just the spread of these games. Number 2, Ghost of Tsushima. Okay. Very close. But number 1, the game we're going to be creating bonus content about, and we'll communicate that further, is PT. So there we go. Cool choice. We'll do some fun stuff with PT in the future. But hey, thanks so much, everybody, for watching or listening to this episode of the MinnMax Show podcast. Couldn't do it without you. Thanks for sticking with us in 2024, and I'll be on a good mic and a good camera next week, I promise. But that's it, folks. Kyle, Jacob, Sarah, Leo, thank you so much, folks. And be good, have fun, let's go. Goodbye.